Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending this meeting of the Council. Please note that the meeting is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel, and I welcome members of the press and public who may be viewing this meeting remotely. We now move into the formal business of the meeting. Can we take the notice convening the meeting as read? Thank you. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have apologies from councillors Bernicle, Heron, Mullen, Reid, Vera and Guy, and also Honorary Alderman Tate.
Are there any further apologies?
Madam Mayor, Josh McKeith, Councillor McKeith, is coming to the meeting, but he'll be about 10 minutes late coming from work.
Thank you. The next item is the minutes of the annual meeting of the Council held on the 15th of May 2024 and the extraordinary meeting held on the 20th of May 2024. Can we agree the minutes? Do any members have any interests to declare?
Point of clarification, Madam Mayor, if you don't mind. Just in relation to, and it might help with this particular item on the agenda in relation to declarations of interest, but the meeting, it's been agreed outside of the meeting with the relevant leaders and yourself through the solicitor to defer until September the outstanding notice of motion regarding short-term respite care in Sunderland. I understand that there is a planning application ongoing in relation to this, and there was some conflict in relation to that application. So that might help in relation to the declarations of interest, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hartnack. Is it agreed at this point that that item is deferred? Thank you. I'd like to thank those members who have given notice to their wish to speak. Where notice has been given, the member will be invited to speak at the appropriate time. If any member who hasn't given prior notice wishes to speak at any point during the meeting, they should please raise their hand to indicate and speak when invited to do so. It would also be of assistance if they could state their name. Members will appreciate that we have a very full agenda this afternoon, and I would therefore remind everyone that under the Council's rules of procedure, speeches must be directed to the question under discussion or a personal explanation or a point of order. In addition, no speech may exceed 5 minutes without my consent. To enable Council to transact as much business as possible in the time available, I am minded not to grant extensions to speeches routinely and would ask members to make every effort to conclude their speeches in the 5 minutes allowed. Now, I understand that Councillor Alison Smith has 2 awards to present. Councillor Smith, would you like to inform Council about them?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very pleased to inform Council that this year the Association of Local Authority Risk Managers National Awards awarded 2 to this Council. The Council's Health and Safety team won Team of the Year award, recognising their excellent contribution to ensuring people's health and safety is at the heart of everything we do. The Council also won the Service Delivery Award in recognition of innovative work across the Council in managing health and safety. I would like to take this opportunity to express congratulations and gratitude to the officers and staff for the hard work and commitment to this Council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. That concludes my announcements.
A point of order, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to make a declaration under item 4, and sorry, we skipped over, but it's not about the Red Gables motion. It's about the hot food takeaways motion, which mentions pubs. So I just want to put on record, like I did at the last meeting, that my employer is the Campaign for Real Ale. And although the motion mentions public houses, it's not in any of the resolutions. So it's just an advisory declaration that I'd like to put on the record. Thank you.
Madam Mayor. Thank you. Similarly, on the notice of motion number 5 of the outstanding motions, I would like to say that I will be staying in the meeting and voting but not speaking, and in any future planning and highways meetings I will make a declaration that I have an open mind on any hot food takeaways applications. Thank you.
Councillor Thornton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also would like to declare an interest for the motion for hot food takeaways, and I will be taking a different stance. I'll be leaving the meeting because I don't want to be party to the debate. Thank you.
Councillor Haswell.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Again, it's item 5 of the outstanding motions, hot food takeaways. I'll be stepping out. Thanks.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'll be taking the same option and stepping out of the room, if that's okay. Thank you.
Councillor Truman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be making the same. I'll be leaving the meeting. Thank you.
Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be taking the same declaration of interest and leaving the meeting. Thank you.
We will now deal with the notice of motion, which is titled CPMS Charges. I've received notice that the motion titled CPMS Charges is to be withdrawn. Is this correct?
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We will now deal with the notice of motion, which is titled 1 Million Women and Girls, a Framework for Women's Equality. I call upon the Deputy Leader to read and move the motion. Deputy Leader, I also understand that you wish to make an alteration to the published motion to which Council will be asked to agree.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. And yes, that is correct. As you know, this is a legacy motion carried over from prior to the mayoral election. So the amendment that I would like to make is a very simple one to remove when and comes into being in 2024 it will be from the first sentence, and insert is before responsible. Simply to make the new first sentence, this council notes that the new North East Mayoral Combined Authority is responsible for the aspirations and life chances of over 1 million women and girls living in County Durham, Sunderland, South Tyneside, Gateshead, North Tyneside, Northumberland and Newcastle. Do you want me to go on and read the motion now, Madam Mayor?
Before you start to read the motion, sorry. Before we move on to that, can I ask if the alteration is agreed? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. The notice of motion reads, this council notes that the new North East Mayoral Combined Authority is responsible for the aspirations and life chances of over 1 million women and girls living in County Durham, Sunderland, South Tyneside, Gateshead, North Tyneside, Northumberland and Newcastle. While it can be tempting for policymakers to think that women and men use the public services in the same way, this is often not the case. Therefore, considering the specific needs of women and girls from the beginning will result in better policy making that works for everyone. This council therefore agrees to formally request the new mayor and cabinet of the new combined authority put a plan in place as soon as possible outlining the practical steps it will take to improve the lives of women and girls in our region, how it will work with partners to ensure women and girls can access safe transport, suitable housing, quality jobs, training and adult education, how it intends to listen carefully to women and girls from all communities, how its systems and structures will be developed to ensure equality for women and girls through considering the specific impact on women and girls of every policy or strategy developed, taking action to maximise the positive and mitigate the negative impacts. I move the motion, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Jones, do you second the motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, and reserve the right to speak, please.
Deputy Leader, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I do. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. And thank you for allowing me to bring this motion to Council today. The 1 Million Women and Girls campaign is a great example of women coming together to ensure gender-informed policy and decision-making, and I couldn't be more proud to be moving this today. This campaign is one that's close to my heart and one which allows me to outline some of the fantastic work that we as a council and our partners in Sunderland are already doing to promote gender equality, including pioneering investment in women's health hubs, a combined domestic abuse and violence against women and girls strategy, investing significant capital into the improvement of women's refuge provision, creating new opportunities to improve access into women's sport and active participation in the regional Transforming Together network. The new combined authority, led by our fantastic Labour Mayor Kim McGuinness, creates a new opportunity to unlock significant investment and change for Sunderland and the wider parts of the North East. Harnessing this in a way that addresses the persistent disparities and challenges that women face across various aspects of life creates a unique opportunity to promote an inclusive and sustainable approach and increase prosperity in our region. The new combined authority, which came into being just the month before last, is responsible for the aspiration and life chances of over 1 million women and girls living in our region and has got responsibility for key areas of policy, including economic development, adult education and skills, transport, housing and regeneration. This major change in decision-making in our region brings a unique opportunity to do things differently. Too often, policy makers assume that women and men use public services in the same way, but this is just simply often not the case. For example, women are more likely to work in low-paid sectors, have insecure employment, and are the majority of low-paid, part-time, temporary, zero hours and self-employed workers. Together, these factors mean women are more likely to live in poverty with fewer assets and lower incomes over their lifetimes. And too few women work in the industry that will create good jobs in our region in the future, such as digital, advanced manufacturing and renewables. This morning, I met with colour from the 1 Million Women and Girls campaign to hear how the campaign is progressing, and I've spoken at length to our North East Mayor, Kim McGuinness. Kim has committed to giving a voice to 1 million women and girls in our region, to prioritise breaking down the barriers to work and to women's safety, and to work as hard to smash the gender pay gap as to smash the North-South divide. Kim is committed to bringing people together and using her role to influence on the basis of not just equality, but economy. If we maximise the potential of those 1 million women and girls, we maximise the potential of the economy in our region. We have so much potential to do things differently, intentionally, and to build all of this into our strategic development at the very beginning. It should never be a tick box exercise. And for this reason, I'm proud to announce, on behalf of my colleague Alison Smith, that together here in Sunderland, we will develop a women and girls strategy to support the women and girls in Sunderland to reach their potential. And we've committed together to put women and girls at the heart of all of our work and commit to concentrated, determined action to improve the lives of 1 million women and girls across the region and especially here in Sunderland. Madam Mayor, this Cabinet, this Labour group, and I'm sure this whole chamber are absolutely committed to this campaign and making this a reality for women and girls in Sunderland. And personally, and on behalf of this local authority, I am proud to sign up to these pledges, which are that we will take practical steps to improve the lives of women and girls in our region. We will work with partners to ensure women and girls can access safe transport, can access housing, good quality jobs, training and adult education. We will listen to women and girls from all communities and act on what they tell us to understand what they need and the barriers they face. We will put systems in place and structures to ensure equality for women and girls, and we will explicitly consider the impact of women and girls on every policy or strategy that we develop, seeking to maximise positive and mitigate negative impacts. And I've said this before, Madam Mayor, but I'm going to say it again in this quote from Ruth Bader Ginsburg. As women achieve power, the barriers will fall. As society sees what women can do, as women see what women can do, there will be more women out there doing things, and we will all be better off for it. I move the motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Are there any amendments? No. Would anybody like to speak on the motion?
Madam Mayor, we've received prior notice from councillors Crosby and Fagan.
Councillor Crosby?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to urge our new local and regional leadership to prioritise women's issues. It's imperative that our region ensures equal opportunities, addresses gender disparities and champions women's rights. My particular concern is women's safety in our city after dark. Recent statistics show that women are disproportionately affected by safety concerns, particularly in public spaces and during nighttime hours, as highlighted by the Deputy Leader just now. As an example of how unsafe our streets can be, in Derwent Street, with a number of food and licensed alcohol premises open in the evening, the recently published police statistics have shown more physical and sexual assaults occurred here than anywhere else in the North East. It was actually 221 offences in that one street in 2023. Our nighttime economy businesses rely on women employees. We need a proactive strategy of CCTV, secure public transport and well-lit monitored car parking spaces. Women should feel safe coming to work and visiting our shops and restaurants after dark. Sadly, this has not been taken into account in recent months when removing free after-3 parking from the safest and most central secure city car parks, forcing some low-income women workers to use less secure and statistically more dangerous car parks. Perhaps the leader can reverse this ill-thought-out policy decision. By incorporating women's perspectives and concerns into policy making, we not only foster inclusivity, but also pave the way for a more prosperous and equitable community. Let's work together to empower women and create a brighter future for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fagan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't actually going to speak on this motion because I knew that Meg would do a good job of covering it, but on reflecting from the last meeting that we had, I felt that I did need to speak and say something. So initially I would start by saying I hope that all councillors will support the motion, but it's starting by setting a positive example of listening to women and girls and taking time to understand what is needed to support all women and girls to make this motion come alive, and it starts in this chamber. Our council chamber should be a place of respect, equality and professionalism. These values are fundamental to our work and the trust that the public places in us. Unfortunately, at times, this is undermined by the odd rogue councillor who goes off message to try and be funny. At last full council, we all had to sit through the dire speech of Denny Wilson, who really embarrassed himself and this whole council with his Chubby Brown-style show, affirming that he really is stuck in the 1960s, while the rest of us strive to become more inclusive and respectful of each other. Having to listen to his derogatory, smutty comments during a council meeting really was cringy, made worse by the fact that we had so many guests in the room, many who attended a council meeting for the first time. Will they ever return again? I hope they do, and I hope they haven't been put off. Such behaviour is not only disrespectful, but also damaging. It creates a hostile environment that discourages participation, stifles voices and increases inequality. To those who were upset by Denny Wilson's speech, I want to apologise. Firstly, I want to apologise that you had to listen to that drivel. I hope it doesn't put you off from engaging with councillors in the future. I promise we aren't all dinosaurs. No one should have to endure disrespect or discrimination, especially in a place that should represent fairness and justice. Secondly, I want to apologise that no one, including myself, stood up and stopped this speech. We must all get better at speaking out when women and girls are marginalised, and everyone in this chamber failed to do so. We must all take responsibility for fostering an environment where everyone feels valued and heard, and on this occasion, we all failed. Maybe next time when you're treated to a speech by Danny Wilson, perhaps someone senior within the Labour group could have a quiet word beforehand to ensure that he is dragged into 2024. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Checker, for bringing this very important motion to Council today, which I'm delighted to second. Today, I want to speak to support women across Sunderland, Washington, the coalfields and the region. Now, I'm proud when I look at this side of the chamber and across our Labour group at the female representation, but sadly, this is not mirrored across society, region, or indeed across the floor. Earlier this year, we celebrated International Women's Day and also the 40th anniversary of the National Women Against Pit Closures, both commemorating what ordinary, everyday women have done across the world and indeed locally, across society, politics and more. And it's amazing, really, when you consider the odds that could be stacked against us. As an example, I'm sure Councillor Checker and my ward colleague, Councillor Diane Snowden, as well as other female colleagues working on the front line during the COVID-19 pandemic, will agree that PPE is simply not designed for women, despite the majority of staff in health and social care being female. Another example, some reports indicate that women are less likely to receive bystander CPR than men, perhaps due to resuscitation mannequins being taught on a male torso. The most recent Conservative budget failed to help women. Again, single men more advantaged than women, especially in comparison to a typical lone mother, a group that often struggle to work and get trapped in low-paid jobs. One of the major travesties of the budget in the last 14 years under the current government has been the persistent systematic underfunding of public services. Women tend to use public services more, take on more care and responsibilities, and women are the core of the public sector workforce, dominating jobs such as nursing and childcare. This means austerity can, and often does, hit women twice over. Lack of sewer starts, libraries, lack of GP or dentist appointments, whilst also battling to deliver overstretched and inadequately financed public services themselves. And the silence on social care is deafening. And let's also remember the promise of free childcare for working families. Conservative gaslighting at its finest, knowing full well there are not enough nursery places to accommodate this false promise. Even on a local level, reports indicate women in the North East are nearly twice as likely to die early from suicide, addiction or homicide. This figure also rose by 15% between 2018 and 2021, highlighting women across the region face health inequalities as a result of the triple shock of austerity, the pandemic and the cost of living crisis. 23% of women across our city relying on universal credits, many single mums caught in the poverty trap, a third of children across our city living in poverty, 46 of the regional children in lone parent families living in poverty. It's an absolute disgrace, but sadly something I see every day within my own community. Here in Sunderland, we see a deteriorating picture of healthy life expectancy, where for women it now sits at 56.9 years. Yes, 56.9 years, 7 years less than the England average. Clear evidence that public health needs more funding. So while this government continue, along with society at times, to disadvantage women and girls on multiple levels, I was reassured to see that our recently elected North East Mayor, Kim McGuinness, championed the 1,000,001 Girls campaign. I have no doubt going forward we will see that every policy made, be it economic development, adult education and skills, transport, housing, regeneration, that has the 1,000,001 girls from across our region at the heart. Concrete and practical actions must be taken to improve our life chances and maximise our potential, and make sure that the North East can be the place of dreams, ambitions and opportunities from all women and girls from cradle to grave. And that is why I am happy to second this motion, Madam Mayor. And I call for all elected members to support this motion, to show support for the women and girls across our region, Sunderland, Washington, the coalfields, including those women and girls that have fled war, abuse and persecution and came to our beautiful city of sanctuary. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy Leader, would you like the right to reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. All I wanted to say was I look forward to working with you all in the development of our Women and Girls strategy. I want this to be a cross-party initiative. I want it to be something we can all work together on, and I look forward to working with Councillor Crosby. Particularly, there's something that Councillor Crosby said that really struck me, which was if we can work together to empower women and create a brighter future for all, and I think that's something that we should all aspire to. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We'll now vote on the motion. These all answer before I ask the question. Anyone against? Any abstentions? No, thank you. We'll now move on to the motion of Sunderland's new footbridge. And again, its title, Sunderland's new footbridge. Anybody want to leave? I now call upon Councillor Niall Hodgson to read and move the motion.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Sunderland. This motion, titled Sunderland's New Footbridge, reads as follows. This council believes that the people of Sunderland should have a say in naming the new footbridge being constructed over the River Wear, just metres away from us here. Council therefore asks the Chief Executive to liaise with group leaders to agree a mechanism that, 1, allows the public to submit suggestions for names for the new bridge, 2, appoints an independent panel to produce a shortlist of those suggested names, and 3, puts the shortlist to an advisory vote of residents of the City of Sunderland. I so move the motion. Thank you, Mayor Sunderland.
Councillor Haswell, do you second the motion?
I second the motion. I'd like to speak directly after Niall, please, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hudson, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, gladly. I'm very pleased that we're sitting here in the Millfield ward, Sunderland's best, brightest, most vibrant ward, with the most politically astute, civic-minded and good-looking electorate. This ward has, of course, been the focus for city regeneration and development in recent years. In fact, I think the future of Millfield ward has looked very bright since roughly about May 2016. And long may it continue. Now, even I, however, would have to accept that it's time that this ambition that is representative in the Millfield ward branched out into other less fortunate parts of our city, and a new footbridge across the Wear could, I think, carry that Millfield ward positivity, ingenuity, positive spirit, sense of fun and ambition into new territory. And I know that the councillors for Monk Wearmouth would thank us for that. Now, this bridge, which is definitely going to happen, isn't it, you know, Michael, Patrick? Regardless of what it costs, it is going to happen. However much it strains the public purse during a recession, it is an important structure. And previous Labour leaders, of course, did get to have a personal bridge. And why should our new Labour council leader not get to have a bridge himself? A bigger, higher, more expensive bridge. That is what Michael deserves, provided that Kim and Keir agree. Now, last time the council leader got to... Well, a few weeks' time, I'm sure they'll sign any cheque you want, Michael. Now, the last time a council leader got a bridge built for himself, there was a, admittedly, slightly limited public vote on a short list of names. However, that was a good thing. We've ended up with the Northern Spire. It's not a bad name. And we could only imagine what it would be called if left entirely to the council. Indeed, the council did have a bash at naming the streets leading to their new bridge, one which is popularly referred to by local residents as Stabber Street, and another, Cowie's Way, which bafflingly chose to celebrate the rather popular local slang
Point of order,
for a
Madam
Class
Mayor.
A narcotic.
Point of order, Madam.
Leader.
Madam Mayor, it's completely out of order to call the former council leader, Councillor Paul Watson, Stabber Watson. And I accept Councillor Hodgson to withdraw that comment and apologise. The man's wife's in the room and it's completely unacceptable.
Agreed. Councillor Aswell.
Yes, I'll make a point. I think there's personal explanation there, a point of clarification in that what I actually said, if I must repeat it, is a bridge which is popularly referred to by local residents as Stabber Street, which it is, I'm afraid. Now, and I have no intention to withdraw that comment, it's a mere fact. Now, I do not think that those streets are good names, and more than that, I trust that the people of Sunderland to come up with better names. If we're going to be so spendthrift with their money, isn't it the least we can do to give them a choice about what the bridge is called? I know that my colleague Martin Haswell is going to speak in a little more detail about our proposal, and I think he even has some suggestions for names himself, so I'll leave him to say more. I also look forward to hearing from the Chamber some of their good suggestions for names for the new bridge. On which point, I did wonder if the leader, in his response, might clarify on which side of the new footbridge we can expect there to be a Michael Mordy Street, and whether there's a budget in place for repairing and replacing defaced signage. Thank you, Mayor of Sunderland.
Councillor Haswell. Sorry.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, colleagues, fellow bridge enthusiasts, as I stand here, I'm reminded of the mortal words of William Shakespeare. What is in a name? That which we call a bridge by any other name would span just as sweetly. Now, I know what you're thinking. Naming a bridge is a serious business. It's not like naming a pet goldfish or the home Wi-Fi network. We don't want something bland or corporate. Instead, let's give it something that's interesting and lasting and has relevance to the people of Sunderland. Something noteworthy, like our existing bridges, Queen Alexandra Bridge, the Northern Spire, far more interesting than something boring cooked up in a committee or by consultants. Now, I'm not expecting something completely iconic. It's not going to be the Bridge of Sighs or the Rialto or the Golden Gate Bridge. But I tell you what, Bridgie McBridgeface does have a ring to it. And I tell you what else, what we could really do is see it as a magnet for tourists. We'll have so many Instagrammers sitting taking photos next to Bridgie McBridgeface, we'll pack the place out. But putting the name out of public consultation does come with some other risks, which is why we need to go and get a shortlist and put that back out. Because you know the Newcastle fans are going to call it the Bridge of Macomtears or Weir Gannon Down or something along those lines. But we could put it in as the Bridge of Light, a bridge supreme. We could also consider cultural luminaries of our city. Why not name it after Lewis Carroll, who gave us Wonderland? Picture it, Carroll's Crossing. It's whimsical, literary, and it'll ruin GPS systems and Google Maps for years while they're looking for Carroll's Crossing. Dave Stewart of the Eurythmics deserves a nod, perhaps. We could call it Sweet Dreams Bridge while we're humming the song and crossing it. Or name it after Ida Cook, call it like Ida's Lane, our local spy turned author who helped rescue Jewish refugees from Nazi Germany. We're also bringing in British esports over the river. We could recognise Sunderland-born Jules Jameson. Now, Jules is famous because he brought in, it was key involved in the programming and design of games of PlayStation, Game Boy, the NES, PC. Let's call it Jules's Joystick Junction. In conclusion, let's give people of Sunderland a say, let them submit their names, vote and unleash their creativity. And I hope we can all then back this motion and support a campaign, whether it be for Bridgie McBridgeface, Carroll's Crossing or something else anybody would like to present. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Are there any amendments? No. Would anybody like to speak on the motion?
Leader. Councillor Butler. Councillor Walker. Is that? Sorry, couldn't see you there. Councillor Miller. Councillor Ty. So, Madam Mayor, the speakers are Councillors Mordy, Butler, Miller, Ty, and Councillor Hodson has the right of reply.
Leader.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, Paul, that spirit of cross-party cooperation lasted less than a meeting. It was my intention to come to this council meeting and support this notice of motion, but unfortunately the absolutely disgraceful comments from Councillor Hodson was just completely thrown that out the window. The issue is that we have a process in place that we went through with Northern Spire. That still stands. This motion is moot. In the spirit of a new working relationship across the league, I was prepared to support it. We've completely thrown that out the window. First of all, issues around less fortunate parts of the city. Southwick's not a less fortunate part of the city. It's a key, integral part of the city. Slagging off other parts of the city is not acceptable, Councillor Hodson. In terms of tourism figures, I think it was Councillor Haswell mentioned tourism figures. The reports in the press recently, the tourism figures are through the roof. More people are visiting the city than ever before. And then Councillor Haswell and the Liberals bring a motion saying, give the city a steer, and then he turns around and says, we should call it X, we should call it Y, we should call it Z, completely undermining the process in the process. So I'll ask the Labour group, in the spirit of the attitude of the Liberal Democrats, to vote against the motion.
Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The leader has said what I was going to say, but I'll say it anyway. With Councillor Hodson alluding to Southwick as less fortunate parts of the city, the Democratic People's Republic of Southwick would not like you to say that. And if you'd like to come along the Green or in Ridley Street and say such a thing, you're more than welcome, but I can't guarantee your safety. The great things about Southwick: Thompson Park. Is anyone playing Thompson Park bingo? Because there we have it. The Stadium of Light, we've got the esports, we've got the stables, and we've got many, many other things amongst community centres which are thriving. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I've got to tell you folks, I'm trying to sit enjoying semi-retirement here at the back in the long weeds of the Labour group. And then Councillor Hodson says truly terrible things about a former leader, especially when his widow and Councillor Susan Watson is still in the chamber. And it's completely unacceptable, and I absolutely am delighted that Councillor Morley has changed the Labour group's decision to oppose. It's just wrong, Niall, and you know it's wrong. But I have to say, regarding Millfield, this Labour group are the people that have made Millfield that bastion of joy and shiny things and all the gold in the streets. Your party opposed every single measure that we've put into Millfield over the last 5 years in full council. Go and check your records. You voted against them all. And I have to say I accept yet again what Councillor Butler's saying. Why would anybody in Southwick want anything from you coming across to them? It's not necessary. I thought we were going to be trying to have a better way of doing meetings going forward. And I would really hope, Councillor Hodson, you'd reflect on that sort of language. It's just not necessary. It's just not. And you, on Sunday politics, trying to be a candidate to be a member of Parliament, saying these things, it just does not come across well. And I genuinely am saddened by what you said, because I didn't think any of it was necessary. And I'll be more than happy to vote against your proposal at the moment. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Tighe.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. And I think we should just look at what Councillor Fagan said a few minutes ago in relation to the women and girls motion. And I think, just as the advice you give us about speaking to Councillor Wilson, I think you should take that same advice and speak to your colleague, Councillor Hodson, when there's a woman in the room. Not 5 minutes after what you've said, your colleague goes and does that, you think that's acceptable. I'm absolutely shocked at that. The one thing that I also want to make out is that Stephen O'Brien, Councillor O'Brien, you need to keep shouting out as well when we're having debates. We were assured that this was going to stop. We were going to have sensible discussion, professional, put party politics to a side when it comes to representing...
Point of personal clarification, my name's been mentioned. I'm not going to take any sort of talk down from the Labour group who've essentially listened to their HQ to enforce someone no one wanted. No one wanted this group.
Councillor O'Brien. Councillor O'Brien, that's not a point of clarification. Thank you. Continue, please,
it is, because I get to respond to what he's just said. I'm not going to listen to anyone lecturing me when your group can't even...
The Mayor's standing. Sit down.
Thank you. Councillor Tighe.
Thank you, and I think that's probably the best example you needed to see, Mayor, of the behaviour that we're having to put up with by Councillor O'Brien. I hope that you do tackle that seriously if it continues to behave like a child. If he wants to behave like a child, he should be in a kindergarten, not in a council chamber.
Yeah. Right, come on, continue.
Just one final thing I would want to mention, if we are going to vote against this motion. If they want us to pick the name for the bridge, we'll pick the name for the bridge. If they want us to pick it in line with previous leaders, then I suggest Miller Weir, personally.
Councillor Hudson, you have the right to reply.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sunderland. Evidently, my role in this chamber to pour cold water on any joy or happiness or friendship that seems to be building between the groups across the chamber. The only point of clarification I did wonder is the leader started by saying that the motion is moot because the council has a system in place for selecting a name for the bridge, so thereby this motion follows that process. But then, by voting against it, would that not run against the council's own policy? Thank you, Mayor Sunderland.
Madam Mayor.
Councillor Hartnack.
Yeah, I would just like to say, Madam Mayor, in view of what's actually been said by the Lib Dem group today, we were going to vote for this motion. We've now decided that there'll be a free vote offered to members on this side of the fence, this side of the chamber. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
We will now move to the vote, sorry, on the motion. All those agreed? Electronic.
So if the officer could get the electronic vote ready, please, and also ring the division bell. So members should be able to vote now.
Well done, Mrs. Miller.
And if the officer could close the vote now, please. There are 14 votes in favour and 54 against, therefore the motion is defeated.
We will now deal with the notice of motion, which is titled Hot Food Takeaways.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If you don't mind, I'm going to remain seated. I'm not 100% today, so if you don't mind, I'll remain seated if that's okay. Perfect. So the notice on motion is hot food takeaways. So supporting local restaurants, cafes, pubs and takeaways.
Councillor McKeith, sorry, come away 2 minutes just while councillors leave the chamber. Thank you.
Sorry about that, Madam Mayor. So supporting local restaurants, cafes, pubs and takeaways is a priority for this city as the city navigates its way through the difficult economic conditions imposed by COVID-19 pandemic and conflicts around the world. Sunderland City Council has a responsibility to act in a way that allows these businesses to thrive and provide jobs, services and improve the quality of life within our city. Council notes the recent public interest in the city's approach to granting planning permission for hot food takeaways following the decision not to award such planning permission to Cold Kitchen. That the ruling was made on account of the fact that 21.3% of 11-year-olds within St Peter's Ward were obese, which is 0.3% over the limit set by policy VC4 of the Core Strategy and Development Plan. That the government-appointed planning inspector ruled that there was no leeway within this policy at present. Council therefore resolves to express its regret that a petition signed by over 5,000 residents calling for Cold Kitchen to be granted plan permission has been ignored, call upon the leader and chief executive to undertake a review of policy VC4 of the Core Strategy Development Plan, considering how Sunderland City Council can create flexibility within the rules to enable businesses which either serve healthier hot food or serve products not targeted towards children to operate as takeaways, and call upon the leader to deliver a report on the findings of this review to a council meeting no later than December 2024. I so move the motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hartnack, do you second the motion?
I do, Madam Mayor. And reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. Councillor McKeith, would you like to speak on the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'm before you today to propose a motion that addresses an important great significance to our community. The support and development of our local restaurants, cafes, pubs and takeaways. As we all know, these businesses are the lifeblood of our city, contribute not only to the economy, but also to the vibrant culture and quality of life that we cherish here in Sunderland. The COVID-19 pandemic, coupled with global conflict, has placed unprecedented strains on our local businesses. It is our duty as a council to ensure that these establishments have every opportunity to thrive, provide much-needed jobs and services to our residents. Recently, there has been considerable public interest and concern regarding the city's approach to granting plan permission for hot food takeaways. This came to the forefront following the decision to deny such permission to Coal Kitchen, a decision grounded by the fact that 21.3% of 11-year-olds in St Peter's Ward are obese, marginally exceeding the limit by 0.3% within policy VC4 of the Core Strategy and Development Plan. While the health of our children is undeniably important, we must also consider the broader context. A petition with over 5,000 signatures from our residents supporting Coal Kitchen was unfortunately disregarded. This not only highlights the strong community backing for local businesses, but also underscores the need for more flexible and nuanced approaches to our policies. Therefore, the Council must acknowledge and express our regret that the voices of over 5,000 residents who supported Coal Kitchen have been ignored. These residents represent a significant segment of our community and their concerns deserve our attention and respect. I therefore call upon the Council Leader and Chief Executive to undertake a comprehensive review of policy VC4 of the Core Strategy and Development Plan. This review should explore how we can introduce flexibility within our rules to allow businesses that serve healthier hot food or products not specifically targeted at children within areas of the community to operate as takeaways. It is crucial that our policy evolves to reflect the diverse needs and preferences of our community while maintaining public health goals. In closing, I urge councillors from across the chamber to support this motion. Let us demonstrate our commitment to fostering a supportive environment for our local businesses, ensuring they have the opportunity to flourish and contribute to the dynamic and prosperous Sunderland we all envision. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Are there any amendments? Would anyone like to speak on the motion?
Madam Mayor, we've received prior notice from councillors Johnston, Hodson, Gibson and Tye. Was that Councillor Newey with his hand up? So, Madam Mayor, the speakers are councillors Johnston, Hodson, Gibson, Tye, Newey, Hartnack, and then Councillor McKeith has the right of reply.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Labour Group will not be supporting this motion, which is clear was an attempt before the local elections by former Councillor Sam Johnson to try and fool the voters of St Peter's Ward into voting for 4 more years of disappointment with the Conservatives. It was great to see on May the 2nd the residents of St Peter's Ward leading the way that the rest of the country will be following on July the 4th by rejecting the Conservatives and voting for change and by voting Labour. Madam Mayor, the Council's plan and policy for hot food takeaways is set out within policy VC4 of the Core Strategy Development Plan, which was adopted in January 2020 following full Council approval. During its preparation, the plan was subjected to extensive public consultation and rigorous examination public process with an independent plan inspector. The policy was informed by detailed evidence prepared by the Council's public health team, which recognised that childhood obesity rates and obesity rates within the city more generally are significantly higher than the national average. The evidence also demonstrates that Sunderland has one of the highest concentrations of hot food outlets per head in population within the country, and taking this into consideration, the Council declared a healthy weight declaration in February 2021. Planning law dictates that decisions on plan applications should be made in accordance with policies of the development plan unless material planning considerations dictate otherwise. As policy VC4 is part of the adopted development plan, this must therefore be applied when determining plan applications for hot food takeaway use. The decision relating to Coles Kitchen was determined in accordance with the policies of the adopted development plan, and all representations made as part of the process were duly taken into consideration at that time. It should be noted that utilising the planning system as a tool to control hot food takeaways and unhealthy outlets also allows the local planning authority to control proposals through the planning use class associated with the property. It is therefore not possible to differentiate between operators based on their menu and target customer base, or to adopt a flexible approach to the implementation of the policy. Madam Mayor, this information is not new to the Sunderland Conservatives, and once again the Conservatives are trying to play petty politics and pull the wool over the residents' eyes, much like the outgoing National Conservatives and lying to voters. I've got an email here from the 3 Conservative councillors of Barnes Ward at that point, who themselves are quoted at the VC4 policy in an objection to an application for hot food takeaway on the border of their own wards. And for clarification, I will read this part of the email out. It can also be found on the Sunderland City Council planning portal. And it says, their quote, "This site is around 400 metres from the entrances to Richard Avenue Primary School and St Mary's RC Primary School. Barnes Ward has historically been within the top 10 wards for childhood obesity, and whilst this is within St Michael's Ward, the impact upon children in Barnes Ward would still be consequential. Both would, in our view, mean the proposal contravenes policy VC4 in respect of hot food takeaways." Madam Mayor, the National Planning Policy Framework states that policies in local plans and spatial development strategies should be reviewed to assess whether they need updating at least once every 5 years and should then be updated as necessary. In accordance with these requirements, the Core Strategy Development Plan, including policy VC4, will be subject to a plan review later this year, which represents the first stage of this process. A final report summarising the outcomes of the plan review will be presented to Cabinet for endorsement. Madam Mayor, if determined following the plan review process that there is a requirement to update the policies of the plan, work will then commence on the preparation of a new local plan. The preparation of the new local plan will involve extensive stakeholder engagement and public consultation in accordance with the adopted statement of community involvement. Madam Mayor, I reject this motion. Along with my colleagues, we will be voting against it. Thank you.
Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Mayor Sunderland. Kevin Johnson's speech there did sound like it was coming directly from this council's planning department itself, if I'm honest. And it felt a little tin-eared because it didn't really acknowledge what's at the core of this motion, namely that this policy is in place, it's VC4, and it's been found wanting. It's been found wanting once it's been put to the test in local communities. And actually, the example you gave of the case in Barnes, St Michael's boundary, sort of makes the point quite clearly, because the situation there was not the same as the situation in Roker. Just like in St Luke's Terrace in Pallion, which the bridge of my own ward, this planning policy has been used to reduce the number of these hot food takeaway delivery hubs. It was the huge number of them on the street. Now, considering a pizza call-up delivery takeaway place in exactly the same bracket as Artisan Deli operating in a sort of tourist resort area of our city isn't the same. And it's the problem with the policy is that it allows the same weight to be carried against two businesses of completely different types, doing completely different things, serving completely different people. So I actually think that the comments you're making don't do any favours to the residents, the many people who were concerned about the closure and the refusal of the application for Coal Kitchen. I don't think it actually had anything to do with a local election in St Peter's Ward. It's more that you had a very popular independent business that didn't fit the model that it was being imposed upon it by this council policy. I'm glad that you said that this policy will be reviewed within the year, because I really do think this aspect of it needs to be taken into account, because we can't consider all businesses across this city by exactly the same sort of arbitrary metrics. Thank you.
Councillor Ty.
Yeah, and I was going to say a very similar thing, so I will keep it very brief. But I think the point of hot food takeaways, now I disagree with what you're saying. As it's already been alluded to, the campaign by the Conservative councillors in Barnes around, it was a KFC incidentally around that side. Hot food takeaway is a hot food takeaway. how will you ever, once that's been granted, how could you say, oh, wait, today it's offering healthy food, tomorrow it's potentially not offering healthy food? So I think it's very, very difficult, and I think would need to be changes in national planning policy as well on what would be described as hot food takeaway for us to be able to take that into consideration. I know our regional neighbours, Newcastle, today, it's just been announced by BBC that they've set their figure at 10% of obesity of children in year 6. So, and I know one of our other neighbouring authorities has actually banned hot food takeaways full stop. So it's right that the policy's there. The portfolio holders alluded that there'll be a review and some changes, but I think you're being a bit naive if you don't think it was a party political issue coming on a local election. I think it clearly was, in my view. Thanks.
Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Hodgson stressed the case for relaxing planning rules under certain circumstances. I'm looking at it more from a macroeconomic point of view. The first paragraph states, supporting local restaurants, cafes, pubs, etc., is a priority for this council as the city navigates its way through the difficult economic conditions imposed by COVID-19 and conflicts around the world. Now, no one would deny that COVID-19 or the war in Ukraine or Gaza aren't significant economic events. However, the elephant in the room is missing, and that is the disastrous mismanagement during the short-lived Truss government and the incredible budget which was passed. The consequences were and are horrendous. The immediate consequences of unfunded tax cuts were, firstly, a collapse in financial markets, confidence in government handling of the economy that drove the pound down to its lowest ever level against the dollar. Secondly, the collapse in the value of the pound meant higher import costs, and that got passed on to the consumer. Consumers are wage earners, their incomes were squeezed, undoubtedly a factor in the increase in militancy at the time. Thirdly, higher Bank of England base rates meant banks and other lenders had to raise theirs. Result, higher mortgage payments for many. And it's still happening. Higher mortgage payments are still coming in as fixed interest deals run out. Fourthly, not just homeowners were affected. Private landlords bought houses on mortgage and they were passing on the higher interest rates onto the people who were renting off them. 5. UK government bonds almost reached junk status. To get financial institutions to buy them, the Bank of England had to pay higher interest rates.
Point of order, please, Madam Mayor. Can I just ask what this has got to do with the motion? Thank you.
To attract institutions, particularly foreign ones, into buying them. 6. To prevent pension funds collapsing, the Bank of England had to pledge to spend £5 billion a day for 13 days. £65 billion. I think that would go a long way towards filling in potholes and other problems.
Councillor Gibson, can we stick to the motion, please? Can we stick to the motion?
I've almost finished, Madam Mayor. 7. Unfunded tax cuts were in danger of creating a £60 billion black hole. The long-term consequences, very slow, stagnant economic growth. The recession is now technically over, but most people can't tell the difference. And finally, the current Chancellor announced a 5-year medium-term financial strategy to turn the economy around, which effectively ties the current government and whoever takes over after on the 5th of July's hands until 2027 at least, maybe even 2028. So sorry to be a prophet of doom, but I think this has to be said. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor, sorry, can we have one meeting? Thank you. Councillor Newey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Hodgson said it had nothing to do with the election in St Peters, and I respectfully will disagree with that, if that's okay. I think that this has everything to do with the election in St Peters, and it didn't go the way that it was planned. Coal Kitchen has my unreserved support. It's a fantastic business, it's a thriving business, and it's an example of one of the many thriving businesses on the seafront of Sunderland. And that's because, as the motion refers to, Sunderland City Council has a responsibility to allow these businesses to thrive and provide jobs, services and improve the quality of life. I think that's exactly what the council is doing by providing the economic conditions on the seafront that allow those businesses to do that. And it will always have my support. And in doing that, that's exactly what we're doing. And it's testament to the way that Coal Kitchen, as one of those businesses, is enabled to thrive under the conditions that we're providing as this council. It should have the full support of its ward councillors as well. And it certainly has my full support. And I know that it has the support, allegedly, of its other councillors too, which is why I would want to ask the question, why this motion has been brought exactly, rather than them bringing it into the planning committee in the first instance and to allow a decision to be made on it. Because it's all very well taking something to a petition. Of course, it's going to get the 5,000 signatories. It's a fantastically successful business. It's going to enjoy huge support, but those councillors perhaps want to keep quiet on the fact that they've either through oversight or deliberately decided not to bring it into planning committee so that they could campaign on that in a local election. So my question is, which one of those things was it? Was it through oversight, or was it a deliberate decision that was done? And can anyone illuminate us on that? Thank you.
Councillor Hartnock, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Fantastic. In his first speech to this council, Councillor Newey has simply ignored 5,000 people who aren't wrong. This is not a political point. It is a slap in the face to the public of Roker and those visiting the Sunderland area. Madam Mayor, it's been to planning. This has been to planning. It's been to planning and it's been considered, and representation was made from this side to the planning committee, so I understand. I wish to summarise, Madam Mayor.
Council, come on, have some order.
I wish to summarise, Madam Mayor, Councillor McKeith's and Councillor Hodgson's clear plea for common sense. And may I simply add that occasionally mature organisations have to, in the interests of common sense, deviate from their strict policy or guidelines. It's a simple principle of governance in public life. In this instance, Coal Kitchen is nowhere near local schools. It's situated on the seafront at Roker, serving outstanding food and a local and visiting population with familiar and traditional dishes. They were not and are not a takeaway service predominantly serving young people, and even if they were, the public will not be able to understand the ludicrousy and double standards applied by this council in licensing so many fast food outlets, especially the multinational chains, when independent outlets such as Coal Kitchen are knocked back. Labour, it would appear, are clearly against small businesses, so be very careful who you vote for on the 4th of July.
Councillor, can I remind you, this is a council chamber and we'll have one voice speaking at one time. Thank you, and keep to the order of business. Councillor McKeith, would you like the right to reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I'm glad the Council is going to review this policy, although it's a shame that it wasn't intended to come as a political movement just before the election. Like you say, your member won in the ward, so why play politics at this point? Why not just put the concerns of residents first? So it's a shame of that. And I do hope that Councillor Newey will reconsider and support residents in what they'd like them to, like they support him at the local election. I'd also just like to point out the fact that had this been called into planning, the Labour benches would have just voted.
Point of clarification, Madam Mayor, what I said was I understand that representation was made by this group.
Councillor McKeith, would you like to continue your right of reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. But yes, had it been called in, no doubt the frogs on the other side would have all got in line with the officers of the council to put forward their agenda and not listen to residents anyway. So, Councillor Newey, I hope you do vote for this motion, as residents in our ward and neighbouring ones would like us to.
Point of personal clarification, Madam Mayor. Why were they not told off a moment ago for shouting and bawling? Are you just a Labour-installed mayor who's just going to support them no matter what?
Councillor O'Brien, I think you may recall what I did say was council. I didn't say any particular party. I said council as a whole. This is one meeting, and you interrupted me while I'm speaking. Thank you. We'll now move to the vote on the motion. Shall we go to an electronic? Do you want an electronic vote?
Yes.
Yeah.
The vote's ready now, members. So, members, the vote will be closing now. And there are 17 votes in favour, 46 against, and the motion is defeated.
Thank you. The next item is the reception of petitions. Do any members have any petitions to present?
Madam Mayor, they're all outside.
Apologies for that. Can get them back in, please. Okay, the next item is the reception of petitions. Do any members have any petitions to present? No. Okay. The next item is the questions from the public. I will now read out the questions that we have received. Why do the bin men, when collecting the blue bins, tip the paper section into the main recycle section after we are asked to separate it? Furthermore, when we shred letters, etc., without names and personal details on, it ends up all over the road. Surely this isn't right. Councillor Leonard, I believe you want to reply.
Thank you, and I'd like to thank Sandra for the question. The council has a limited number of split-bodied recycling collection vehicles, and on occasion when these are in for service, inspection, breakdown, repairs, a substitute single-body collection vehicle will be used. In these situations, paper caddies will be commingled with other dry recyclable materials, then separated and recovered at the materials recovery facility. The paper still gets recycled. Similarly, If a vehicle sustains a bin failure on one of its 2 lifts whilst on duty, the situation might be temporarily addressed by mixing the paper with other commingled materials until a repair can be made. Loose and shredded paper, confetti, is difficult to keep restrained if it is introduced with a strong gust of wind when the bin lift compactor moves. It can blow away. Wrapping shredded paper in a sheet of newspaper or a paper bag will prevent this occurring. Thank you.
Next question. I live in a street off the centre of Sea Road in Fulwell. Being in the middle of Sea Road encourages and attracts people to park their car in Moran Street for ease, whilst other streets nearby are left almost free without this issue. Visiting traffic volume has reached capacity and cars belonging to workers are parked there, preventing the local residents parking in their street. Can we consider some form of parking restrictions like they do off Chester Road, which is also a busy business area? And again, Councillor Leonard.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Martin Bloomfield for the question. The Council receives numerous requests across the city for community parking management schemes and to address local concerns for commuter parking problems. All requests are fully considered and, if suitable, they may be added to the future programme of parking schemes. The next parking scheme programme is currently being compiled, and the request for a scheme around Sea Road area will be considered for inclusion into the programme, which is expected to be finalised during the summer. All schemes selected will be subject to community engagement and to understand the overall consensus of those residents and businesses affected. Thank you.
Thank you. And third question, can the portfolio holder explain the lack of progress in establishing a matchday CPMS scheme for Tyswick Street Crescent, Edgeworth Crescent and Berescott Crescent, and reassure residents that progress will be made ahead of the new football season? Councillor Leonard.
Thank you, and thank Sam Johnson for his question. I'm sorry that he's not in the chamber to hear me give the I'm going to say it's a very similar answer, that the Council does receive numerous requests across the city. The new programme is currently compiled, and the area around Tyswick Crescent, Edgeworth Crescent and Berescott Crescent are already under consideration, with the programme being finalised in summer. Again, all schemes selected will be subject to the community engagement to understand the overall consensus of those residents and businesses affected. Thank you.
We now move on to the questions from the members of the Council. Question 1, the Knife Angel. I believe that's from Councillor Brandon Feely.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can the Leader of the Council comment on the significance of the Knife Angel being in Sunderland for the month of June?
Deputy Leader, would you like to respond?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and I'd like to thank Councillor Feely for the question. It's incredibly moving to see the Knife Angel over in Keele Square. The Knife Angel sculpture, also known as the National Monument Against Violence and Aggression, is visiting Sunderland as part of a national touring programme. It acts as a catalyst for turning the tide on violent and aggressive behaviour and as a beautiful memorial designed to celebrate those that have been lost through knife attacks. Sunderland Council, along with the PCC, have supported the Conor Brown Trust in bringing the sculpture to the city. A daily programme of education and awareness sessions are being delivered by the Conor Brown Trust to schools and young people from across Sunderland whilst the sculpture is here. Its visit is an important part of the wider work underway across the region to tackle knife crime. As a mother, I can't even begin to imagine what it's like to lose your child to knife crime. But it's thanks to Tanya and Simon and their bravery and sheer determination to channel their grief into something positive after losing Conor that the Knife Angel is in Sunderland until the 28th of June. I hope that their powerful story touches the lives of everyone who comes to see the Knife Angel or attends one of the workshops they're running during its month-long stay here, and that everyone who visits the Knife Angel during its stay in Sunderland will take the time to reflect and to think of all those whose lives have been devastated by knife crime. I ran into Tanya and Simon on my way in here this evening. They were just leaving after delivering one of these sessions here in City Hall. And they could not talk strongly enough about the young people in our city and the schools and the dedication and the engagement that they've had from people attending the sessions that they're running. So much so that they are full, and they're now running some literally in Keele Square around the Knife Angel. They are speaking so strongly about the feedback they're getting from the young people. It's been a fantastic resource, and long may this work and the work of the Conor Brown Trust continue. Because if having the Knife Angel here in Sunderland makes even one person think twice about carrying a knife or the devastating consequences of knife crime, then its visit will have been worthwhile. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. The next question on the North East Mayor was submitted by Councillor Stephen O'Brien, and I have been asked to read out the question on Councillor O'Brien's behalf. When did the leader last meet the North East Mayor, and what issues of concern to the people of Sunderland were discussed? Leader.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I last met the North East Mayor on the 11th of June at the NECA Cabinet meeting, and prior to that I met the North East Mayor at City Hall on the 3rd of June, where a wide range of issues were discussed. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Could the leader be more specific in what you were talking about in concerning the City of Sunderland residents, please? Given the fact that we've just got an elected mayor and they're costing a bomb, an arm and a leg to taxpayers, because no doubt the Labour government will put a council tax at every opportunity they get.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, the Mayor was elected on a manifesto of clear priorities. In the meeting on the 3rd of June, we talked about the Mayor's commitment to expand transport across the city, in particular the Washington Loop, to bring rail services to Washington, one of the only parts of the city, that biggest town in the country without a direct rail link. Other issues we talked around was the Mayor's plan and how my plans and the change of the portfolios here in the city with Councillor Butler's portfolio of child poverty, how we will work together to reduce child poverty in the city. We also talked around the Mayor's plans and how we can participate and drive the agenda forward to bring the buses back into public ownership. That is a key priority, not just to the residents I represent in the East End, who have had bus service after bus service after bus service reduced, particularly residents in the coalfields who find to struggle to get a bus after 6 or 7 o'clock at night. So that was another issue that we spoke about. We also spoke about the investment in the jobs of the future. £25 million was secured from the North East Combined Authority Cabinet to invest in the Crown Work Studio. That's moving ahead at pace. And also the Riverside Sunderland growth deal was another item we discussed. And also how we can prioritise the adult education budget in the city to ensure that adults across Sunderland have access to the jobs. So that was just a flavour of some of the issues that the Mayor and I discussed, and I look forward to working with her to deliver her manifesto on behalf of not just Sunderland but the wider North East. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. The next question, special measures, was submitted by Councillor Lyle Reid.
Councillor Michael Dixon will be reading the question now. Can the new leader of the council explain why the majority group is in special measures? What does this mean for the council's service delivery? And what precisely was wrong under the previous leadership of the council to cause this to happen? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Leader.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, local government is a key priority for the Labour Party, and Sunderland is just one of many Labour groups that have been offered extra support and development by our party in recent years, as Labour councillors are forced to grapple with the terrible legacy of the outgoing Conservative government. But I absolutely and categorically refute that the Labour group is in special measures, and any suggestion that the internal processes of the Labour Party will have any impact on the delivery of services in the city is completely untrue. The biggest factors that have posed a risk to council services in Sunderland are the actions of the Conservative and Lib Dem governments of the last 14 years that have slashed funding to our city by hundreds of millions every year, pushed the NHS to breaking point and inflicted massive rises to the cost of living for residents when they crashed the economy. I'm proud to lead a Sunderland Labour administration that is focused on what matters most to the people of Sunderland, bringing more jobs and opportunities. I've just alluded to in the last question, building new and good quality homes and getting the basics right with cleaner streets and safer streets. And we remain committed to the fantastic investment and regeneration work that is taking place across our city, which Labour councillors have led over many years. After 14 years of Conservative mismanagement and failure, I believe our city is desperate for the change, and I'm looking forward to working with an incoming Labour government to deliver it. The general election cannot come soon enough.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, could I have a supplementary question to the Leader? Thank you. Whatever it's called, whether it's special measures or whatever description you want to call it, Councillor Mordy, were senior officers of the Council informed of this situation? And if not, should they have been? And if there were, why was this information withheld from elected members of the Council?
Madam Mayor, that sounded like a second question or a supplementary question, and at the end of the day, the internal process of the Labour Party are a matter for the Labour Party.
Thank you. Right, again, can we go back to the order of business? Thank you. D-Day commemorations, Councillor David Newey.
Does the Leader of the Council agree with the outrage shown at the Prime Minister's disrespect to veterans, with him choosing not to stay in Normandy for the International D-Day commemorations?
Leader.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I absolutely do agree. I think it was a complete and utter disgrace and attests to the character of the Prime Minister, who deliberately went out of his way to insult D-Day veterans by sulking off back to the UK to do a TV interview. And I know that it has upset Sunderland veterans, because the day after the news broke, we were out campaigning in Ford Estate, and a gentleman on his own back crossed the street and began talking to us about it. And his words were, his actions, the Prime Minister, were a disgrace, and he shouldn't wait for the general election. He should resign immediately for what he did. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, and the sooner this tired, clapped-out Tory government is kicked out, the better. The Prime Minister should be ashamed of his actions, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Safety in the city centre, Councillor Margaret Crosby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Police data shows that Durwood Street is the place where more physical and sexual assaults were reported than anywhere else in the North East in 2023. What is the Council proposing to do to improve safety and policing to make people feel safe in the city centre? And will they ask the Police and Crime Commissioner to come to a Council meeting to comment on it? Thank you.
Deputy Leader.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Councillor Crosby, your dedication to this subject is extremely commendable, and I thank you for raising this. Keeping residents safe across the city, and especially the city centre, is a key priority for this council and for the Safer Sunderland Partnership. The council, in partnership with Northumbria Police, set up the Sunderland Altogether Improving Lives, or SAIL project, in the city centre in December 2022, a multi-agency, co-located hub based at the heart of the city centre. Since its inception, there has been a decrease in numerous crime types between April 2023 to April this year. Notable reductions in crime, including violence against the person, public disorder, burglary, sexual offences, vehicle crime and criminal damage have been evidenced. The council, police and other key partners such as street pastors, Excel Health and Youth workers proactively patrol the city centre and the nighttime economy to protect the vulnerable and target those committing offences. In addition, 12 extra cameras to enhance the current CCTV coverage in the city centre are currently being acquired. As a partnership, we continue to work together to ensure Sunderland remains a safe place to live and work. Thank you.
Next question is flooding Seaburn Camp. Councillor Michael Hartnack.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In light of the Council's failure to explain the flooding of Seaburn Camp on the 30th of May 2024, could the portfolio holder please provide the results of the floodwater tests undertaken at Seaburn Camp on the 30th of May and outline what investigations have been undertaken by the Council with Northumbrian Water and other agencies to determine the extent to which the illegal connection, namely manhole number 5609, was a contributory factor to the flooding. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Leonard.
Thank you. The immediate response on site was to move the excess water using pumps. Any flood water can carry potential contaminants that can be harmful to health. We understand the campers were evacuated immediately and therefore there is no ongoing risk of exposure to flood water. There is little use of testing flood water or surface water because it may be contaminated from different sources such as animals, farmland or dog waste from the land it crosses. As a result, the water was not tested. Initial inspections indicate the primary cause of the flooding was due to excess surface water together with an accumulation of excessive vegetation that had been swept into the watercourse, leading to a blockage at the culvert inlet. This particular culvert is not linked to the sewerage system. The council is not aware of any illegal connection from manhole 5609, but will raise this concern with Northumbria Water as a priority.
Supplementary, Madam Mayor. What learning has taken place within Sunderland Council in respect of accepting quite ludicrous and quite dishonest claims by Northumbrian Water that there is capacity within the sewage and stormwater systems to cope with the extent of housing development across Sunderland and beyond?
Thank you. If you'd like to submit that for the next question for the council session, I'll answer it then. I don't believe that's a supplementary. I think it's a separate question altogether.
Yeah, I disagree, Madam Mayor.
Agreed. It was another question. Submitted for the next council. Thank you. Seaburn Camp, submitted by Councillor Malcolm Bond. Can you put your mic on?
Question 2. Following the flooding in Seaburn Camp and several vehicles and caravans being damaged, is the council carrying out an investigation to ascertain if A, the retention tank in the new Miller Homes development was overwhelmed by the volume of water, and B, whether the culvert has sufficient capacity and wasn't itself overwhelmed?
Councillor Leonard.
Thank you. There is no evidence to suggest that the attenuation tank on the Miller Homes site was overwhelmed, as no manholes were observed to be surcharging on the site. The majority of the flow was emanating from surface water from the farmer's field to the west. Initial inspections indicate the primary cause of the flooding was due to the excess vegetation swept into the culvert inlet. The next steps will be to assess the condition of the culvert, look for any partial blockages using CCTV equipment, and explore modifications to the culvert inlet to improve water flow. In addition to these, hydraulic modelling will also be used and undertaken to identify any further issues or concerns within the network.
Councillor Bond.
First, thank you for the answer. I actually did speak to the flooding officer who was on site at 4 a.m. in the morning, not at 4 a.m. in the morning. And he did say that he'd lifted 4 manhole covers and that the flow of water through the culvert was patent and gushing through. I also spoke to
Councillor
another...
Bond, you're making a speech. Can you ask a question? Thank you.
That's the question. But the question is that the answer that you gave isn't compliant with what I was told. Okay, please correct.
Cover up. Cover up.
Right, North East Combined Authority by Councillor Lindag.
Can the leader of the council update council on the plan?
Sorry, can we have one meeting again? I've already said we will be moving on to the order of business. That wasn't... Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can the leader of the council update the council on plans being developed by the new North East Combined Authority and how Sunderland residents will benefit under the new leadership in the region? Thank you.
Leader.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, before I answer the question, can I just say we've agreed through Elaine that the leaders and the chief whips of each of the three groups will meet on a regular basis. And maybe the first item on that agenda can be the conduct of members in this chamber, because I think it's an absolute disgrace that members shout out to you, an impartial chair, that a decision you've made is a disgrace. You chair this meeting impartially, fairly, and members should treat you with respect. So hopefully that meeting, the leaders can agree, we'll sit down, because some of the behaviour tonight is absolutely disgraceful itself. Madam Mayor, the original North East devolution deal agreed between the 7 local authorities was announced in December 2022. It provides devolved powers and potential £4.2 billion of investment into the region over the next 30 years across 8 themes: transport, investment fund, skills in education and inclusion, housing, land and digital infrastructure, clean energy and net zero, rural economy and sustainability, culture, tourism and place, health and public service reform. As part of the North East regional devolution negotiations, the 7 local authorities secured the right to agree a trailblazer deal, deepening the devolved powers, given more resources and decision-making locally on the key drivers of local growth, including regeneration and affordable housing, local transport links, skills and employment support. The new combined authority came into being on the 6th of May 2024, this year following the election of Kim McGuinness as the first North East Mayor. The devolution deal means decisions about Sunderland, including those around decisions about transport schemes, what education and skills courses are available for local people, and what type of housing is built, can be made here in the North East by the North East Combined Authority and not in London, with devolved funding passed to the region. As the Finance and Investment Cabinet member, the leader, that's me, plays a key role in shaping negative decisions to ensure that they benefit the whole region, making the most of the opportunities that exist here in Sunderland, whilst helping address the challenges which our city, its residents, communities and businesses face. Finance and investment underpin all the activities of the Combined Authority, setting out a clear strategy to maximise investment with a plan for generating jobs, skills and inclusive growth. And I believe it's worth just reiterating the point that I made into an earlier question, that this deal will enable us, alongside the Mayor, to reduce child poverty, something that is grown exponentially under this current Conservative government, which is an absolute disgrace, and we will do all we can as a council and as a combined authority to bring that down. We'll also work to improve transport connectivity from rail to bus to other green transport, expand the electric vehicle charging networks. We'll also improve jobs across, not just here, but there's plans in Newcastle, in South Tyneside, in Durham, in North Tyneside and in Gateshead. This deal brings the decision-making closer to the residents, and it is a game changer. So I'm really looking forward to getting involved and to leading this on behalf of the city. And I'm sure over the course of the mayoral term, when we go back out to the public, Kim's mandate will only increase, because we've got a lot to do and the people of Sunderland voted for it and we intend to deliver it. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Middle Harrington Park, Councillor Dominic McDonough.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and welcome to your new position as well. This is the first full council meeting I've been out with you here, so I hope you have a wonderful year. The play area at Middle Harrington Park is in a terrible state, and works last year to improve the surface have only made things worse. The play area is now inaccessible to buggies and wheelchair users due to the surface, and the equipment is tired, old and often broken. Will the Cabinet member responsible agree to meet with me and local parents to discuss the problems, and will they work together with me to look at funding for a full refurbishment of the play area, giving local children a safe and accessible place to play? Thank you.
Would you like to respond?
Yeah. Thank you. I would be happy to meet you on site. Always happy to meet you fellow members of any party, and I would happy to meet the residents of your ward as well. In 2021, East Harrington Play Area was upgraded as part of the West Area Works Improvement Programme. These upgrades included replacing the deteriorated wet poor surface following extensive antisocial behaviour, installing new infant junior multiplay equipment, and inclusive springy benches and outdoor gym equipment. The grass matting was selected for its longer lifespan, ease of replacement, low maintenance and suitability for wheelchair and buggy access. It is a product extensively used across the city. Grass matting provides a safe and accessible play space for our children. However, the unprecedented wet weather has impacted on the efficiency of the surface. We have installed additional drainage solutions to address this, but the persistent wet conditions have delayed their effectiveness. The annual independent play inspection report concluded that all play equipment was in good working order and safe for all users. We strive to repair any broken equipment promptly, although delays can sometimes occur due to contractor or parts availability. Recent upgrades include a new rope walkway, and further enhancements are planned for a large climbing unit.
Brief supplementary, Madam Mayor. Yes, thank you for agreeing to meet with me and the parents. That's fantastic. Yes, you did mention the upgrades to the surfaces that we had last year. Unfortunately, that is part of the problem. It hasn't worked as we expected, and we are having terrible trouble getting buggies and wheelchairs in there. It would be great to meet. I can talk your ear off about this, and I'm sure we'll meet very soon. But thank you very much for your positive response.
Thank you. Councillor MacDonald, was there a question in there or just a...
No, I was just being delightful, Madam Mayor.
I now call upon the Leader to move the approval and adoption of the Human Resources Committee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, the report is fully set out. I so move.
Deputy Leader, do you second the report?
I second the report, Madam Mayor, and reserve the right to speak.
Leader, would you like to speak to the Human Resources Committee report?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor. It's fully set out. Thank you.
If anyone wishes to speak, please raise your hand and state whether you have an amendment, comment or a question.
Councillor Edgeworth.
A comment, please.
Councillor Hartnack. So, Madam Mayor, that's Councillors Edgeworth and Hartnack, and the Leader has the right of reply.
Councillor Edgeworth.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd wondered if we could all agree a slight amendment, which I suspect is an error, but I'm looking at section 4, page 60, in relation to election fees as part of the Chief Executive's remuneration package. It says he has responsibility for European elections. I don't know if the Human Resources Committee or the Chief Exec are endorsing rejoining the EU or not, but I'm not expecting any European elections soon, and I think we shouldn't have a report that has an error in, so maybe that could be taken out if it is indeed an error. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edgeworth. It has been documented it is an error. Thank you. Councillor Hartnack.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A key element of this report at page 59 makes reference to 3 very senior posts receiving market supplements on top of their otherwise quite generous salaries of over £150,000 per annum. Does the Leader consider it appropriate to award such payments to senior staff when we are unable to employ neighbourhood wardens who are not on a market supplement? And does he intend reviewing the process for awarding market supplements in the future?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank Councillor Hartnack for his question. The answer is no. I think the senior officers listed here are worth their weight in gold. You've just left a look around where we're standing now. They have absolutely delivered for the city. They will continue to deliver for the city. And that is the market supplement, the market rate. If you want the best, you have to pay the best. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Deputy Leader, sorry, did you want to speak?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Leader, did you want the right to reply?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do you accept the report of the Human Resources Committee? Thank you. I now call upon Councillor Jones to move the Area Arrangements Annual Report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I reserve the right to speak.
Who would like to second the report?
I do, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Jones, would you like to speak to the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to thank Councillor Price for all his hard work and dedication during the last municipal year and for his foreword in this report. So the 23-24 report was produced to highlight the combined achievements of the 5 area committees of Washington, the Coalfields, East, North and West Sunderland and their partners, and to demonstrate the successes of joint working which has taken place over the past year. Now, some eagle-eyed councillors may have noticed that the 1 year in pictures for West area are missing, so we'll make sure that these are added to the final report. So as an overview, in 2023, each area committee developed a 3-year area plan designed to support the delivery of the city plan at a local level, with an area-specific focus relevant to the unique requirements of that area, community and neighbourhoods. Each area plan was used to develop, fund and deliver initiatives and projects in collaboration with partners and local voluntary and community sector organisations. To deliver on each area's priorities, a budget of over 2.2 million was awarded to the 5 areas during that year, which has enabled local groups and partners to attract over 2.2 million in addition to the city, adding value and providing additional services within local communities. Area committees are extremely grateful to the local VCS organisations and all partners in each of the areas who have continued to deliver projects and support the work of the area committees throughout the last year. Councillors are committed to supporting and working in partnership with the established 5 area VCSE networks, which are linked directly with each of the area committees. So in the last 12 months, as well as being allocated funding from area committee resources, the voluntary and community sector has been awarded additional budgets to provide enhanced support to residents. Examples include funding of over 800,000 to set up 35 Links for Life community hubs and £500,000 to establish 28 digital health hubs. There's a vast amount of work involved in providing support to area committees, including the development of projects and initiatives, administering of grants, monitoring funded projects, and working with residents, partners and communities. In this year alone, 91 applications to Neighbourhood Fund were approved. Over 200 groups were awarded funds from community chest applications, and 356 payments totalling nearly 2 million to VCSE organisations were made. The achievements of the 5 area committees are very impressive and undoubtedly have positive impacts on the lives of residents across our communities. These are detailed in the report, and there's too many to mention now, but thank you to everyone involved in making these happen. So the year ahead, the area committees will reflect on the success of the first year and delivering the 23-26 area plan. Each committee will ensure that their priorities are still relevant and meet the needs of residents and communities and progress the second year of the plan, while looking also ahead to year 3. Working with service leaders, partners and VCSE organisations, actions within the plans will be considered, and through the neighbourhood and community boards, area committees, these will be developed and delivered. And I'd ask all members to support this report. As I've said, the photographs are missing for West Area Committee, so the final report will include those. Thank you.
Councillor Laverick, would you like to speak?
No, Madam Mayor.
I understand that Councillor Dixon wishes to speak on the report. Do any other members wish to speak on the report? If so, please raise your hand.
Councillor Hodson.
Councillor Laws.
Is that Councillor Laws? So, Madam Mayor, that's Councillors Dixon, Hodson, Laws and Councillor Jones has the right of reply. Thank you.
Councillor Dixon.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. The Conservative group have always been very supportive of the current structures of area committees, and unlike others, we've never sought to reduce their number or indeed propose to do away with them altogether. So we are pleased to note the very positive reports presented at today's full council meeting, especially those relating to the East, the North and the West area committees, where Conservative councillors have played an active role in the council year that's just finished. The reports quite rightly pay tribute to the excellent support received from our area council officers. Their dedication and care to their work is exemplary. Then there's a wonderful work carried out by our VCS organisations, the countless other groups and volunteers. As an area committee member over many years and latterly East Area Vice Chair, I got a very close look at the excellent work that's been done. Attended countless meetings, visited many headquarters of the groups and met some wonderful people working extremely hard to help others who need it the most. The current structure of area committees enables all councillors to make a real difference, have a meaningful impact for their residents, and if any one of us does not look forward to every neighbourhood board or area committee meeting, then I would suggest they're in the wrong job. Finally, just to conclude, local elections do inevitably mean the loss of good, hard-working councillors from all parties. And I would just like to mention the contribution of my three Conservative colleagues, Richard Dunn, Sam Johnson and Greg Peacock, who were not re-elected in May, but who all played their parts in the work and achievements of their respective area committees in the council year that's just passed and which is reported upon in our agendas today. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Mayor Sunderland. I just want to mention briefly on the East Area Committee report for this year. There's a nice summary on the year in numbers compiled for each area committee. And what you do notice on the East Area year in numbers is the 591 litter picks carried out and the 1,927 bags of waste cleared from neighbourhoods by East Rangers and volunteers, which is significantly higher than the numbers in the other area committees. Now, those of us who are councillors in the East Area Committee know that there are a huge amount of voluntary groups, the East Rangers, and actually local residents getting involved in these litter picks. We've been to Thornholme Residents Association ourselves. So what I just want to firstly acknowledge that the huge amount of volunteer man hours of our sort of local residents that those numbers reflect. But secondly, also point to the fact that it's still just the tip of the iceberg. I think if you asked a lot of people who are living in the East Area whether the streets, the back lanes, the green spaces were clean and tidy, the answer would be no. So despite the huge amount of effort that local residents and councillors and volunteers are putting in, we're still struggling to get on top of this issue. The numbers are quite massive. And what I am certainly looking forward to speaking with colleagues in the area committee about, and what I'm looking forward to hearing the new council leadership's approach to, is how we can actually get a grip on street scene without having to rely solely on the huge efforts of volunteers to pick up the slack. Thank you.
Councillor Laws.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to say as well, I think this is the first time that I've spoke since you've been, that you are our Mayor. In my experience, I think Alison's make the best mayors, so I'm sure you'll have a fantastic year. It's been mentioned, obviously, by a number of people already about the VCS, what they do, and I would like to add my voice to that. Having chaired the VCS network, I think that the work that they do, the difference they make, we wouldn't really be able to manage without them. When becoming area chair, I set about looking at how it was that we could bring more money into Washington. I thought that was something that, having been told regularly by residents, it should be a focus of mine, and I'm delighted that over the course of the last year, we will see Washington Area Committee's budget increased by 20% this year as opposed to last year. So I'm delighted that we've had that as a success. The real reason I want to highlight a couple of the projects that we funded as a Washington Area Committee, including commissioning work with Tyne and Weir Fire and Rescue for their Phoenix and Spark projects, really making differences to the lives of young people, including projects that we've set up ourselves for young people, for 16 to 19-year-olds, improving financial resilience, etc., and really trying to invest in the young people of Washington. I just want to finish on something that has probably been one of the bigger focuses of the area committee over the last year, which is the celebration of the fact that on the 24th of July, Washington will be 60 years old since it was designated as a new town, when it was designated on the 24th of July 1964. On the 20th of July, Washington will hold a Washington 60 celebration at the Northern Area Playing Fields. The communications and promotion of that will be going out very soon, I hope. And I would like to invite everybody in the chamber to come along to that to celebrate what has been, what is a proud history and heritage for Washington, and what will be, I have no doubt, an excellent 60 years ahead. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I thought I got my hand up a little bit too late there, but thank you for this. I just want to say thank you to the North Area Committee for funding the city's third park run, which is based in the Southwick ward. However, it is called the Fulwell Quarry Park Run, but it's on the People's Republic side of Newcastle Road. We've had hundreds and hundreds of people turn up each week, and I came up with this idea in 2021, and I've had the support of the voluntary sector, which is obviously many members have mentioned, and things like this could not be done without the people, and also the funding from the North Area Committee. So a big thank you and a fantastic report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And congratulations to the Chief Executive on his OBE. Well done. Madam Mayor, first of all, I'd like to pay my respects to Councillor James Blackburn, who would normally make a speech here today. Sadly, Jim's no longer with us. He's not dead, he's sitting down there. He just got moved strategically into another position. Madam Mayor, I'd like to thank the councillors on the North Area Committee and all the councillors for leaving the politics at the door and the egos at the door when we have our meetings and we do our best for the area, as Councillor Butler's just said. I would also like to thank the unsung heroes of the area committees. That's our area officers. These people have to know all the councillors and all the politics and all the things that's going on, all the departments, all the people who work in the departments, all the BCS organisations and all the people who's involved with the BCS. This is a big job and these people do a really good job. We've got Vivian Metcalf. I'll give her a mention because she's probably watching. Vivian's a big help. When new councillors come to me and say, Councillor Wilson, I've got a really big problem I cannot solve, with all your years of experience, can you help us? I look back and say, yes, I can. Phone Vivian, she'll sort it out. And that's what we do. Area committees also, I've got to thank and we've got our new leader there coming on. When we have our joint meetings, the great, and although area committees act individually for their areas, this is where we can come together and all councillors are represented there and we can be a force as well as this council. Thank you.
Councillor Jones, do you wish to exercise your right of reply?
No. No, thanks, Madam Mayor.
Can we receive and note the Area Committee's annual report? Thank you. I now call upon Councillor Rowntree to move the annual scrutiny report.
I so move the report, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Dodds, do you second the report?
I second the report, Madam Mayor, and reserve the right to speak.
Councillor Rowntree, would you like to speak to the report?
Yes, Madam Mayor. First of all, I would like to offer the warmest welcome to the Chamber because the first opportunity I've had to speak, and I welcome you taking up the role, and Deputy as well. It's great to see you both sitting up there, and I'm absolutely confident 100% that you'll do a fantastic job, and I especially look forward to some of the social occasions because I know how high spirits we've been in the past at social events, so I look forward to many more. But it gives me great pleasure to present the annual scrutiny report for 23-24, Madam Mayor. As colleagues will be aware, the report provides a brief summary of the work of each of our committees during this previous year. This includes the overarching coordinating committee and the 3 thematic scrutiny committees covering health, well-being, children's services and, of course, economic prosperity. The report lays out the wide range of issues looked at by scrutiny over the year and highlighting what a challenging year it has been for scrutiny, and indeed the Council as a whole, and its important contribution to the good governance of this city. I am very much looking forward to my new role, working with you all, ensuring that the scrutiny function will remain fit for purpose through the challenges we face moving forward. In conclusion, Madam Mayor, I would like to thank Councillor Mason Gage and other Scrutiny Committee chairs for their role in developing the work of the committees, and all of the members, officers and partners who have contributed to the work of scrutiny during the last year. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I understand that Councillors Usher and Hartnack have indicated they would like to speak on the report. Do any other members wish to speak? If so, please raise your hand. No. Councillor Usher.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's basically just to add my thanks, colleagues. As Chair of the Health and Wellbeing Scrutiny Committee, I'd like to record my appreciation to all members of the Health and Wellbeing Scrutiny Committee, officers at Sunderland City Council and all representatives of external bodies concerned with health and wellbeing for their amazing support. I wish to express sincere gratitude for the outstanding work and dedication exhibited by the Health and Wellbeing Scrutiny Committee and the diligent officers at Sunderland City Council throughout this year. Your unwavering commitment to promoting and safeguarding the health and wellbeing of our community has not gone unnoticed. The efforts put forth in scrutinising health policies, addressing public concerns and implementing measures for the betterment of our residents have undoubtedly made a significant impact. Your collaborative approach and thorough examination of health-related matters have contributed to the overall improvement of healthcare services in our city. The diligence with which you have approached your responsibilities reflects a genuine concern for the welfare of our citizens. In these challenging times, your steadfast commitment to ensuring the health and well-being of our community has been a beacon of resilience. The tireless work of the committee and officers has undoubtedly played a crucial role in navigating the complexities of public health, and your efforts have not gone unnoticed by those you serve. So on behalf of the residents of Sunderland, I extend my heartfelt thanks for your invaluable contributions. Your dedication to fostering a healthier and safer community is truly commendable, as we look forward to continued collaboration and progress in the years to come. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Hartnack.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, can I offer thanks on behalf of the Conservative Group to Catherine Mason-Gage for her time as Chair of the Scrutiny Coordinating Committee. Catherine has been a fair and inclusive Chair of that committee, ensuring that opposition members were able to ask all of the questions that they wished, and the Conservative members of that committee fully embraced this, sometimes to the irritation of other members. There is something to be said, though, about the turnaround of scrutiny chairs in recent years. Councillor Mason-Gage was only given 12 months in post. Prior to that, a quite outstanding chair in Diane Snowden was in post for 12 months, and prior to her, Doris McKnight. The point here is that the frequent changes in chair mean that there is no continuity within this most important of scrutiny functions. The second thing I wish to highlight is that whilst the Cabinet Scrutiny Protocol worked for other committees, the former leader and deputy leader did not avail themselves of the suggestion that they should appear before the committee at an appropriate point in the year. Likewise, the previous Cabinet did not use the Scrutiny Coordinating Committee to test out or help develop policy ideas as the protocol suggested. We therefore asked the new leader to attend a meeting of the committee, particularly the session on the city plan, and to ask all Cabinet members to better use scrutiny to develop policy before it's implemented, rather than seeking feedback afterwards. Conservative members of Scrutiny will continue to be active participants, working as critical friends to be constructive in our roles as scrutineers, and we hope that the administration will see our work on these committees in that spirit. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, can I make a point of personal clarification on Councillor Hartnack's comments there? And I'm sure Councillor Mordy may want to expand on this. I said last year, and I'm sure my deputy leader then, Councillor Rowntree, did the same, that all scrutiny had to do to get the leader and the deputy leader or any cabinet member to scrutiny was to invite us. At no stage was I invited to any scrutiny committee, nor was Councillor Rowntree. Cabinet members cannot invite themselves to scrutiny. I'm sure the Chief Exec and the City Solicitor will confirm that. That is not allowed. We waited on being invited and it never happened, Councillor Hartnack. I would have been more than happy to come and take questions from scrutiny on any matter at any time. So please don't say we did not avail ourselves of it. We were not asked to attend. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Madam Mayor, if I can respond, please. Thank you. Yeah, the point here, Councillor Miller, is the fact that opposition members within the Scrutiny Coordinating Committee on frequent occasions did ask for representation from Cabinet. On each occasion, that was never forthcoming to the Cabinet themselves. That is the point that we're raising here. The point is that the Cabinet should avail themselves and the leaders should avail themselves of that opportunity to develop policy with the scrutiny groups, rather than to be cross-examined, if you like, after the event. That's the point that I was trying to make. Thank you.
Mayor, point of personal clarification. Sorry, thank you. Just on the point Councillor Hartnett made, as the Cabinet Member for Children's, I have been along to the work programme after an invite by the officer, but only after an invite by the officer. Other Cabinet members have probably been, although that might not have taken place yet. So I'm happy to come along any meeting, any time, anywhere, and answer whatever questions you need, but I'll not be cross-examined because it isn't a court. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Dodds, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't going to, but after Councillor Hartnack's statement, I think we have had several Cabinet members over the year to scrutiny. And our last scrutiny meeting, we did have a Cabinet member there, and we did not ask the leader, and it was an oversight, as explained in the last scrutiny meeting, and we will be asking for Cabinet members and leader to attend. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Rowntree, do you wish to exercise your right to reply?
Yes, Madam Mayor. It's entirely the duty of the Scrutiny Committee, Madam Mayor, to exercise their functions, to ask people to attend committees and so on. Cabinet will not attend a scrutiny meeting because you can't interfere with that governance of scrutiny. They have to be invited. You know, scrutiny works to scrutinise the decisions of Cabinet and leadership. That's its purpose and that's its function. And anybody with experience on the Scrutiny Committee should surely understand that. And I'm sure the committee have met and decided whether it has been appropriate to call Cabinet members in. I'll concur with what Councillor Miller said, and he's absolutely correct, other than to say that I was invited by economic scrutiny, to which I attended and gave a presentation. So yet again, Madam Mayor, we have this constant misrepresentation from the opposition to try and cloud what's actually going on in this council and to try and infer that we wouldn't come to a scrutiny matter. It's just out of order, Madam Mayor, and you're just making every attempt that you can to just, misrepresent every situation that you're involved in. And what I would advise you, Councillor Hartnack, is to use your position and your civic role on the Scrutiny Committee effectively to best represent the people of this city, because scrutiny is a non-partisan role. So stop using it as a political exercise and use your function properly.
Can we receive and note the Scrutiny Annual Report? Next is a report on action on petitions. Does any member wish to comment on the report?
Councillor Edgeworth. Councillor MacDonald.
Councillor Edgeworth.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The first point is just some of these petitions seem to date back from January 2023, and I wonder if there's any mechanism we could look at to make sure that members and residents are getting timely responses to petitions. I also just wanted to place on record in relation to item 8, the deep disappointment from me, Margaret Crosby, Stephen O'Brien and residents across Hastings Hill about the rejection of the petition there for double yellow lines at the junction of Seven Oaks Drive and the Hastings Hill roundabout. It's a busy and dangerous junction with lots of traffic coming off the roundabout into a residential area at high speeds. And there's lots of persistent, inconsiderate parking causing problems. And despite almost 2 years' worth of requests for service, calls to the police, meetings with officers and culminating in this petition, there still isn't a commitment here to include the location in a future group order for new waiting restrictions. And the residents think that it frankly makes the council look ridiculous that it cannot or will not give a commitment to such a small common sense move, such as installing a small section of double yellow lines. And despite many requests, I've never really been able to get a clear answer from officers about how this process for group orders actually works, how they're ranked and prioritised, by whom, at what point during the year, and how the decisions can be influenced. So it seems to me and to residents in Hastings Hill that process isn't open and transparent, which gets residents' backs up. And I think if people understood that process better, they might understand why, it isn't happening, but that it might happen in the future. So I just wondered if the leader or the cabinet member could publish the criteria for the ranking and the prioritisation of deciding locations for group orders for new double yellow lines to help reassure me and help me reassure residents that they aren't being fobbed off. Thank you.
Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, just to actually firstly echo what Councillor Edgeworth has just said around the timeframes that these petitions have been dealt with. I mean, for my two, January 2023, and we're currently standing here at June 2024. It's not good enough, quite frankly, and I've had to chase up council officers regarding these two issues on a number of occasions until we've got to these conclusions. So that's very disappointing and something I think we need to do a lot better because many of these issues are of course very important. I'm very disappointed that both of these have been rejected, particularly item 2, though I am continuing to work with officers on this. They've suggested that the reason that they don't want to give us a crossing there in a very dangerous area is because it's underused. Well, the reason it is underused is because it is an inadequate crossing. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation there, but, very frustrating. The area is near 2 local schools and it is very dangerous. We also have a problem with reporting as well. We've been told in this that there hasn't been any accidents in that area. Now, I know that for a fact that is not true. We did talk, I believe, a couple of years ago about getting better at sharing data with the police, and this would suggest that the data in this area has not been shared with the police, so I think we need to do a lot better on that going forward. And will the cabinet member meet with me? You're never going to be away from my ward. You're going to have a great time. We're going to go to the play park and then we're going to go to the crossing. Will the cabinet member meet with me to discuss this and see if we can find some sort of solution to try and make this area a little bit safer as well, please? Thank you.
Can we accept the report? The next item tonight is reports, which includes a report of the leader on special urgency decisions and a report and supplementary report on appointments to committees and outside bodies. We will take these in turn, starting with the leader's report on special urgency decisions. Leader, would you please move the report?
I so move, Madam Mayor.
Deputy Leader, do you second the report?
I second the report, Madam Mayor.
Does Council agree to receive the report? Next, we will deal with the report and supplementary report on appointments to committees and outside bodies. Leader, would you please move the reports?
I so move, Madam Mayor.
Deputy Leader, do you second the reports?
I second the reports, Madam Mayor.
Is Councillor Vaughan able to indicate that he will take up the seats allocated to the ungrouped councillors? Is Councillor Vaughan able to indicate that he will take up the seats allocated to ungrouped councillors?
Right, just to clarify, I do apologise to you, Madam Mayor. I'm as deep as a post. And I've just had the translation there. Thank you very much, Stephen. No, I don't wish to take up those two positions on the Tineware, on Twaffer and the Brass Band Trust. I just want to speak 2 minutes on the brass on Twaffer, right? One is all to understand.
Madam Mayor, through you, perhaps if I could just clarify the positions that are being offered to Councillor Vaughan as an ungrouped member, or what? Sorry, apologies. The positions that are being offered to Councillor Vaughan as an ungrouped member is a position on the Human Resources Committee and a position on the Homelessness Appeals Panel. This arises as a result of recalculating the political balance on those committees. So the position is that because they are classed as spare seats, they are offered to any ungrouped members, in this case Councillor Vaughan. So it's simply to ask for confirmation that is he happy to be appointed to those two committees?
Thank you for the clarification. No, I don't wish to be appointed to those two places. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to speak on the report?
Just a question, Madam Mayor. What happens there then if the young group members does not wish to take those seats?
Madam Mayor, through you, the positions would remain vacant unless, for example, there was an alternative arrangement agreed at a future council meeting.
Sorry, Councillor Edgeworth, we have you down to speak on the report. Does anybody else wish to speak on the report?
So, Madam Mayor, that's Councillor Edgeworth and Councillor Maudy will have the right of reply.
Thank you. Councillor Edgeworth.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously, we've got this supplementary report because of the defection of Jimmy Vaughan from the Labour Party, so I just wanted to say thank you. It's the new record broken where you have lost a member to independence slightly earlier than I did. So, you know, that makes me a little bit happier. It's clear that the rows and the discontent within the Labour group about the party's Newcastle and London HQs imposing a Keir Starmer and Kim McGuinness yes man have finally bubbled over, as we warned they would. I just want to congratulate Jimmy Vaughan on his courage and for sticking to his principles and leaving the Labour Party, and look forward to it and constructively with him from the opposition benches. Thank you.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. I couldn't quite hear what you were saying.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
I'm raising a point of order. I didn't quite hear what you said. I wish to speak in this debate, in this discussion. And I indicated to the solicitor that I wish to do that in an email.
Thank you. Take your name. Thank you. Councillor Truman.
Madam Mayor, in respect for yourself, will members please stand up when they're speaking, especially when when you've asked them to stand or you've allowed them to speak. There's people sitting here, we can hear a voice. We cannot see the head.
Yeah. Thank you. Will members please remember to stand when you're speaking? Thank you. Councillor Maudy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, just to see, obviously, it is disappointing that Councillor Vaughan chose to leave the Labour group, but on Councillor Edgeworth, well, not the Labour group, he left the Labour Party, by consequence left the Labour group. But to answer Councillor Edgeworth's point, I think the record is 3-1. I think 3 members have left, only one of mine.
Councillor Maudy,
so still
sorry.
ahead.
My apologies. Can we bring in Councillor Vaughan?
Oh,
then
sorry.
you do the right reply. Sorry, my mistake. Thank you. Councillor Vaughan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to take up a couple of your minutes of your time. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time on that fire authority. When I first joined it was a complete mess. And in the first year, we had to work to bring it into something. The FBU were being used as a political football at the time. And over the last 3 years, we've built up a good relationship with them. So I'm very sad to be leaving the Fire and Rescue Authority in particular. It became something that was very close to my heart. But I also want to say this. The reason I left this Labour Party and the reason I left this Labour group is because I know, and so do many, many others sitting behind that front bench team, that we were threatened if we did not, if we did.
Thank you.
Councillors.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. You can tell the class clowns back at full council today. Just to reiterate, the report is fully set out. Like I said, it's very disappointing that Councillor Warren has decided to leave the Labour Party, especially when we're on the cusp of a Labour government.
Councillor Hodgson, Councillor O'Brien, can I ask you to remain quiet while Councillor Maudy... Apologies. Councillor Hodgson, can I ask you to remain seated while Councillor Maudy is speaking, please? Thank you, out of respect. Thank you. I've withdrawn it. Sorry.
Like a yo-yo. As I said, it's
Point of order, Madam Mayor. Can I ask why Councillor Warren was stopped from speaking? What were the rules around?
Sorry, because it wasn't relevant to the reports. It wasn't relevant what he was speaking on. That was my final decision. Thank you. Right. We'll have no more on this. We'll listen to Councillor Maudy. Thank you.
Point of order.
No. Overruled.
Point of order. No. You've got to hear the point of order. It's in the rules. Rules of procedures are not now.
My decision was there'd be no more speaking on this. We want to hear Councillor Maudy on his right of reply. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Fifth or sixth time lucky. We'll get there in the end. As I said, it is disappointing that Councillor Warren has chosen to leave the Labour Party. Councillor Warren will attest for why his decisions. The issue is, I am disappointed.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. Under Rule 23.1 of the Rules of Procedure. Thank you. Under Rule 23.1 of the Rules of Procedure, can I move a motion without notice to suspend standing orders so that we can hear from Councillor Warren?
Seconded, Mayor Sunderland.
Madam Mayor, through you, you have already ruled on that matter and it can't be challenged further in this meeting.
Not scared of you, put it that way. Absolutely not scared of you.
Councillor O'Brien, can I remind the Chamber again, this has now been live streamed on YouTube and people are watching. People of Sunderland are watching the behaviour of councils in this chamber. Can we now continue with the order of business, please, respectively? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, as I've said, it is disappointing that Councillor Warren has chosen to leave the Labour Party, especially when we're on the cusp of a Labour government that will work hand in hand with this Labour Council to deliver for the residents of Sunderland, Washington West and in particular wider Washington. It is even more disappointing that the people of Washington West voted for Jimmy to come back to this council in May this year as a Labour councillor, and he's chosen to turn his back on that mandate and leave the Labour Party. The report sets out why, as a result of the changes that we've made, it's fully set out.
Point of explanation.
Councillor Warren, I've already explained. We will continue with the order of business. Thank you.
The report is set out. We have rules of debate in this chamber, and shouting out doesn't change that. You can act like an idiot as much as you want. It doesn't mean you get sane, because we have rules of debate, and I think we need to reinforce the rules of debate in this chamber, because it's completely out of hand and they're completely taking advantage of a situation. The report's fully set out.
Madam Mayor,
I move the report.
the Rules of Procedure 12.3, item B, comments are potentially...
Right, we will move on now to the next item. Are the reports agreed?
No.
Thank you. We will now deal with the notice of motion. Right. Right, we will now move to the vote by show of hands. All those agreed? It is my decision, and I am saying a show of hands. All those agreed? Thank you.
Thank you.
On the reports? Thank you. Those against? Those against?
Yes.
Yes, they will be recorded in the minutes.
Madam Mayor, through you, it's for any member can request their individual vote is recorded. Councillor Edgeworth has indicated that. Perhaps if any other members would like their individual vote... Could I clarify, is it all of the Liberal Democrat group? Thank you. And all of the Conservative group? Thank you. We'll record those votes. And Councillor Warren, we'll record your vote against in the minutes.
Do we have any abstentions?
None, Madam Mayor. The majority was in favour of the recommendations in the report.
Thank you. We will now deal with the notice of motion, which is titled Amendment to Sunderland City Council's Constitution, Part 2, Article 7, the Executive. I call upon Councillor Edgeworth to read and move the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The motion reads to amend Part 2, Article 7 of the Constitution as follows: to delete Part 2, Article 7, Section 706, Deputy Cabinet Members, and to adjust the numbering of the sections in Article 7 accordingly. Thank you.
Councillor Fagan, do you second the motion?
I second the motion, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Edgeworth, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I won't speak for long. It's a short, sensible amendment to the Constitution that I'm sure will receive support from all sides of the Chamber this evening. We know that Deputy Cabinet Members are total non-jobs that have been used as an excuse to dish out special responsibility allowances to Labour councillors and to use taxpayers' money to buy loyalty for leaders of the Labour group. For many years, they weren't even able to actually deputise for Cabinet Members, and when posts were left vacant under Graham Miller, because he couldn't fill them, there was no impact on the functioning of the Cabinet or Council. Now we have the Keir Starmer and Kim McGuinness imposed leadership trying to spin the fact that they have a slimmed-down Cabinet just because they can't fill the positions. I think it's time to be honest with ourselves that these are total non-jobs. The Council does and can function without them, and we should use this opportunity to amend the Constitution to get rid of these positions altogether, see if the leader's willing to put his money where his mouth is, and to make it more difficult for Graham Miller, whoever succeeds him as leader, to stop wasting council taxpayers' money by bringing back these positions. And before the leader tells me, which I'm sure he will, that we shouldn't be amending the Constitution via motion at full council, this is clearly the precedent that Labour Party has set, bringing forward amendments to the Constitution without any consultation with opposition groups in the past, even on things like area arrangements, which are traditionally the one part of this council which does work well across party divides. And despite my pleas at cabinet meetings and elsewhere that opposition groups should be consulted about changes to the Constitution. So if the leader wishes to change from that long-standing arrangement, I'd certainly welcome that. But I urge everyone to support the motion and to get rid of Deputy Cabinet Members once and for all. Thank you.
Councillor Fagan, would you like to speak?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Are there any amendments? If anyone wishes to speak on the motion, can you please raise your hand?
Councillor Mordy, Councillor Scott, Councillor Dixon. So, Madam Mayor, the speakers are Councillors Mordy, Scott and Dixon, and Councillor Edgeworth has the right of reply.
Councillor Mordy.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, the Labour Group will be opposing the amendment for the simple principal reason that it's not the opposition's job to amend the Constitution. They are the opposition. It's the majority group who runs this city. We've been trusted by the people of the city year after year by winning election after election to run this city. It is not... It's a moot point in itself anyway, because any future majority could come back and reinstate the positions. And I don't think it's appropriate that we bind the hands of any future incumbent leader who might want to have deputy cabinet members. They did play a role in the council and contributed to the work of the council. So I ask the Labour Group, ask council to reject this stupid waste of a time of amendment.
Councillor Scott.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'll make it very brief. It's just mostly in response to Councillor Edgeworth's comments around Deputy Cabinet Member positions being non-jobs. Having sat in that position up until recently myself, I think on behalf of my fellow Deputy Cabinet Members, I'd like to say that's absolutely not a true depiction of what was entailed within the role. It's a very busy, fulfilling role. Again, I'm sure that those that I've worked with in the University of Sunderland Board of Governors would attest to that, with the amount of work that has gone in to improve that relationship between University and Sunderland, amongst all the other cabinet roles that we undertook. I'm very sure that their roles were just as busy as mine. Thank you.
Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. From the outset, I would like to say that while I understand the allowances that we'll be discussing here just briefly were set by an independent panel, in our opinion, it's the rules that were created that are a major concern. And with respect to the panel, we felt the allowance was excessive anyway. The fact is that these posts have now been dropped rather supports the view. The role of Deputy Cabinet Members with an allowance of over £12,500 per annum has long been an issue for ourselves as Conservative councillors, and we've raised it continuously over the years, since the time when Peter Wood was our group leader and I was his deputy. In those days, and we're going back a few years now, over £60,000 was allocated for these roles. So multiply that by the number of years they've been in place, and you do question the party opposite when they suggest there's no spare money around when they allocate such a massive sum to these roles. This could have been spent so much better. We've always opposed the fact that this role should have been the subject of such a high allowance, and I'm pleased to note that a more enlightened approach is being made by the current leader of the council. The money saved with these posts being dropped can be constructively used elsewhere and not before time. The decision to create the posts from the outset has proved controversial, and I personally have been disappointed, though not that surprised, the previous leaders of the council did not respond to past concerns. I personally cannot recall a contribution being made by a Deputy Cabinet Member at a full council, and I cannot recall one appearance at a Scrutiny Committee meeting on which I've been a member for many years, covering the economic prosperity of the city, when one of them came even as an interested observer, keen to learn more about their brief. There's been no connection at all made to members of the council by these roles, and from the outset they've been shrouded in mystery. If hard work did take place, it was well hidden. In many ways, the Labour leadership from the outset created this role. Had they created this role without such a high allowance, it could well have been that we're not discussing this tonight. I think the actual role itself could have been useful in assisting cabinet members with their work if they were unavailable, ill, or had other commitments. To work within a portfolio would have been a very interesting contribution to civic duties, and had a small nominal allowance been applied from the outset those many years ago, then the controversy that's followed this role and this post could well have been avoided. Now, while I'm happy enough to trust the current leadership with his decision to drop these posts, his successor may not be so enlightened. And without the motion here been implemented, the door would be open for the post to be resumed and the unacceptable extent of the allowance paid, which is why the Conservative group will be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Edgeworth, the right to reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you to Michael Dixon, who makes a good point, I think, on prioritising taxpayers' money. Although I obviously have to add that where Lib Dems lead, the Conservatives are once again following, but thanks for the support nonetheless. To Ian Scott.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. Peter Wood came before you, Paul.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I actually think Ian Scott did a good job, and I know he helped colleagues with casework issues in the portfolio. But I don't think it's the quality of the people in the job, it's the job itself. The council has and does function without them. So I think where there's a chance to reduce spending taxpayers' money on special responsibility allowances, we should. I think it's disappointing, if not surprising, that the Labour group are going to vote against this and defend their taxpayer-funded allowances and jobs for the boys. But I would make the point that it's not the majority group's constitution, it's the whole... Sorry? Jobs for the people, sorry. But it's not the majority group's constitution, it's the whole council's constitution.
Right.
Don't know, too many.
Thank you. We will now vote on the motion. All those agreed? Show of hands. Those against? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, that's clearly the majority voting against the motion, so the motion is defeated. Again, as with the previous motion, we can record the names of any members who wish their individual votes to be recorded as voting against. Perhaps if those members would like to raise their hands, just so that we can confirm that that's all of the... These are all of those in favour, sorry, of the motion, who wish their names to be recorded in the minutes.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. Point of order, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering, has the Labour Party been elected into national government already? Are we on a 3-day week with the electronic voting system, or why can't we have an electronic vote? I'm sorry, but why?
Because we can do this with a show of hands.
On a point of order, Madam... Sorry, I think there was just confusion about people putting their hands up to vote for the motion rather than against. But...
So those who want to votes documented and minuted, they can show the hands who's voting for. Thank you.
Thank you, we can note that.
Thank you. Any abstentions? No, thank you. Thank you. We will now deal with the notice of motion, which is titled Fairer Funding for Local Government. I call upon the leader to read and move the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, Council notes that because of 14 years of consecutive Conservative governments, that there is a severe crisis in local government finance and that swift action is required to resolve this problem, and calls upon His Majesty's next government to bring forward meaningful reform to the way local government in England is resourced over the course of the next Parliament. Council therefore resolves to continue to campaign for a fairer funding deal for local government and to use its influence through the North East Mayoral Combined Authority and the Local Government Association to continue to raise the matter on a regional and national level, to write to the new Prime Minister to request that their government make resolving the financial crisis facing local government a priority. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Deputy Leader, do you second the motion?
I second the motion, Madam Mayor.
Leader, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I do. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, local government is under a severe financial pressure, with councils being forced to raise council tax by the maximum they're allowed to each year just to stand still. In fact, the Tories have built into their assumptions a rise in council tax of over £7 billion over the next few years, a stealth tax rise in council tax of £300 per household. With personal taxes also rising, families are on average £870 worse off under this Tory government. 14 years of Conservative-led governments have left communities across the country paying more and getting less. The Tories have shifted the burden of their financial mismanagement to working people. After over a decade of Tory economic mismanagement compounded by Liz Truss's kamikaze budget that set inflation spiralling and a failure to grow our economy, councils of all political stripes are on the brink of collapse. Families are being hit with sky-high council tax bills, but local services are on their knees, from bin collections and potholes to social care and children's services. The Tories have sold our communities out. Over the last 14 years, they took cash from local areas, ripped up long-term funding plans and told councils to take risky bets to survive. While working people are struggling, Rishi Sunak boasts to Tory members about how he funnelled money away from the communities that needed it the most to the wealthiest places in Britain. And now, in every corner of the country, local services are on their knees, councils are on the brink, and council tax bills are skyrocketing, and the Tories are nowhere to be seen. If the Tories win the current general election, council tax bills are set to double from when Labour was last in power, and communities have nothing to show for it. A Labour government led by Keir Starmer will ask a lot of local government, but in return we will bring stability and greater certainty. We will start by ending the stick and plaster approach peddled by the Conservatives and provide long-term funding settlements to councils, giving them greater certainty and the ability to plan for the long term. After 14 years of the Conservatives, working people are worse off. Instead of taking responsibility, the Tories are desperately looking for someone else to blame. It's time local government is given the funding it needs, and I and this council will continue to do all we can through our engagement with NECA, the LGA and key cities to bring that about. And I know the whole Labour group is working day in and day out for the next 2 weeks to ensure that the new Prime Minister referred in this motion is Keir Starmer, and His Majesty's next government is a Labour government, because that is the only thing that will save local government and the services it provides to the communities that we all serve. I so move, Madam Mayor.
Deputy Leader, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I would like to talk about this motion in the context of one element of my portfolio, which is adult social care. Recent surveys have cited that nationally, 14 years of fragmented funding and the absence of a clear roadmap has brought the adult social care sector to its knees. Across the country, waiting lists are rising, although my director will kill me if I don't point out not in Sunderland. We do excellent work in Sunderland. But the sector is short tens of thousands of essential staff, and local authority finances are being placed under unsustainable amounts of pressure. Not enough has been said in this chamber about the pressures within adult social care. But when we're talking about the crisis in local government finance, I can't not discuss this, as it's a prime example of where meaningful reform is absolutely essential to ensure our elderly and vulnerable residents are getting the care they require. The adult social care budget constitutes the biggest area of discretionary spend for councils and supports some of the most vulnerable in our society, so ensuring sustainable levels of funding is critical. Local authorities across the country have continued to report financial pressures, and last year, under 1/5 of directors responsible for social care reported they were not confident they could meet their statutory duties for care. The Association of Adult Social Care Services reported that one-year funding settlements for local government, supplemented by short-term and targeted grant funding for adult social care, meant that conditions and certainty have not been there for councils or providers to embark on multi-year investment programmes to fundamentally transform services they offer. This sticking plaster approach is shameful, and our residents deserve better. Mounting social care costs will leave English councils facing a £6.2 billion financial black hole over the next 2 years. The LGA has calculated that authorities would need an additional £4.7 billion in 2025-2026 just to maintain services at existing levels. That's £4.7 billion needed just to stand still. And they will only be able to cover half of this amount through increased income, leaving a gap of £2.3 billion. In 2026-2027, costs will be £8.9 billion higher than they are now, but incomes would only be around £5 billion above the current levels, £3.9 billion short of what is required. The LGA said social care cost pressures are a significant driver within this shortfall, with the cost of providing children and adult services expecting to be £10 billion higher in 2026-2027 than it was last year. Madam Mayor, we know the demand for care will continue to rise with our ageing population. Here in Sunderland, we spend £2.9 million per week caring for our elderly and vulnerable residents. This is approximately 40% of the council's overall budget, with the number of people requiring care rising year on year, and in the last year alone, we've seen a 23% rise in people reaching out to our teams for help. Our departments in the council always strive to reflect, learn and improve, but it's becoming increasingly hard to fully fund just our statutory services. We need to see further investment in adult social care and a boost to the social care workforce to ensure the best possible care for those that need it. Councils have already been forced to make major cuts to various public services, dip into reserves and significantly streamline administrative overheads to plug the black hole in their budgets. Along with a raft of efficiency savings, our teams have also developed a number of creative ways to generate income. This simply cannot continue. Councils, the NHS, charities and care providers are united about the need for an urgent injection of genuinely new additional government funding to protect services caring for elderly and disabled people. And we all know this isn't coming from the Conservatives. Here in Sunderland, we've got fantastic teams within the local authority and across our independent and voluntary sector who are all rated good and outstanding, and I commend each and every staff member, as well as our unpaid carers across the city. But with £4 million of pressures in adult social care contributing to the overall council pressure, it's extremely difficult to see how we can keep going without an increase in funding. And I'll know that we will be using our influence within the North East Combined Authority and the LGA to continue to raise this matter on a regional and national level. We need to plan for the long term. We need to reverse the chaos of the last 14 years. The fragmented funding and lack of a clear roadmap. Our vulnerable residents deserve that. This is the reason that this Labour group is out speaking to residents every day and hearing their concerns. People in Sunderland understand that only a Labour government led by Keir Starmer can give local government the funding it needs, and therefore I second the motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Are there any amendments to the motion? Would anyone like to speak on the motion? I believe...
Yes, Madam Mayor, we've had prior notice from Councillors Edgeworth and O'Brien. Councillor MacDonough. Councillor Elms, is that? Councillor Dagg. So, Madam Mayor, the speakers are Councillors Edgeworth, O'Brien. Oh, sorry, have I missed Councillor Butler? Councillor Jones. Councillor Curtis. Any other speakers? So, Madam Mayor, the speakers are Councillors Edgeworth, O'Brien, MacDonough, Elms, Dagg, Butler, Jones, Curtis.
Thank you. Councillor Edgeworth.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Liberal Democrats will be supporting the motion. We support any moves for better funding for our council, but having heard Kelly Checker's speech, I think it's what Humphrey Appleby and Yes Minister would call brave. It opens up the Labour group to so many accusations of trying to be in favour of funding for more councils, but when you scratch the surface, you'll find that Labour actually isn't offering anything for local government. The manifesto offers no hope of actual funding levels for local councils and no hope or mention of the social care crisis. Even, Wes Streeton is saying he wanted more in there. Keir Starmer's been refusing to rule out hiking council tax by more than 5% each and every year, failing to give a straight answer on an LBC phone-in just this week, saying none of our plans require a tax rise, which is political speak if we've ever heard it. Hard-pressed residents across Sunderland, Washington, Houghton and Hetton will be understandably fearful of huge council tax rises under a Starmer administration. All Labour are offering is a new age of austerity, but with a red rosette on it. Clearly, it's a desperate attempt by the new leader, imposed by Labour's Newcastle and London HQs, to pretend that he isn't a Keir Starmer yes-man who's just going to back Labour's Austerity 2.0 programme. But if you look at the detail in this motion, you'll see that just like Starmer's Labour nationally, there isn't much hope being offered here.
just a vague commitment in political jargon to reforming local government resourcing at some point in the next 5 years. So the election isn't even over, and we've already seen that despite all the protests and talking the talk in this council chamber for the past 14 years about local government funding, now they look set to be a Labour government. They're already backing down and limiting the ambitions to meaningful reform over the course of the next Parliament. Clearly, London's Labour and Newcastle HQs have told the leader that he can't shout loudly about wanting more funding for local councils under a Labour government unless it's in this weak and feeble language. Just goes to show that you can't trust Sunderland Labour to fight for a fair deal and low council tax for the residents we represent. Thank you.
Councillor O'Brien.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. You won't hear me say this very often, but I completely agree with the Labour Party. For far too long, central government has cut and not replaced funding. However, saying that, the loving is ending right now. Because if you to be believed, the Tory party are on 18% and the Reform are on 18%, so they're going to be wiped out. So Sir Ed Davey will be the opposition, facing Keir Starmer like we are today in Sunderland. However, if you look at the Labour manifesto, it commits nothing. It's nothing. It commits more Tory austerity. Yeah. What you guys have been saying we've been doing for the past 7, 8 years I've been on this council, yet you're going to commit more austerity. There's not a fag packet between yous, actually. In fact, Keir Starmer said, and absolutely disgustingly said, that Rishi Sunak is more liberal on immigration than he would be. So what are you guys representing? You guys voted for a motion a few months ago for Sick Sanctuary a year ago, yet your leader's going to forget about the rows, about the small boats, and it's going to send them to Turkey or something like that. Because they have similar policies. There is no difference between you and the Conservative Party. You offer no hope. The only hope what's offered on the 4th of July is the Liberal Democrats. Yeah. And Sir Ed Davey. The only hope for Sunderland Council is to get rid of you lot in 2026 and replace them with the Right Honourable Paul Edgeworth. The idea, you people, especially the leader who decimated this city...
Councillor O'Brien, can we speak to the motion, please?
It is sticking to the motion. Yes, it is. It is. We're talking about the next Labour government. I'm talking about the next Labour government.
This is about fairer funding?
Yes,
to the
to
local
what
government.
The next Labour government's going to introduce, which is nothing. They're not going to introduce anything. You guys are all talk and no action. That's why I've got 64% of the vote in Sandhill, and you lost it. You lost a safe seat because you can't be trusted. You can't be trusted nationally because you're going to put up council tax and you're going to put up mayoral tax. And you know what that's going to do, Michael? It's going to put more people in poverty. You were going to put more people in poverty than these clowns put in poverty. How dare you sit there and smirk when you're going to put up council tax like no one's business because you're going to lick Keir Starmer's boots and you're going to say what he wants. At least, where's he gone? Where's Graham? At least Graham had some balls about him about trying to sort the Labour Party out. You guys have got nothing. You've got nothing to offer the public of Sunderland, nothing to offer the general public in nationally.
Councillor O'Brien, again, it's about fair funding.
One moment, I'm going to get there.
I've asked you to stick to fair funding.
On the 4th of July.
Councillor O'Brien, can you finish your speech now, please? Councillor O'Brien. Thank you. Councillor McDonough.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not sure how to follow that, to be fair. And I must say, you were mentioning Reform UK then, you were pointing at me. Please don't do that. Do not go there, believe me. But yes, it's been said already. I think Labour need to read their own manifesto, and I think there's certain people over there who have not read this manifesto because it does not mention one extra penny for local government. So I don't know where you think this is all going to come from. Magic money tree. We might as well have Jeremy Corbyn back in charge. In January, Bridget Phillipson, wonderful woman, Bridget Phillipson said that Labour would not commit to any more funding for councils. Rachel Reeves has said they'll not bail out bankrupt councils and said that no more money is coming. Keir Starmer has not promised one extra penny for local government. Where is it coming from? Is there going to be tax? Apparently not. Yes. Apparently not. But where is this money going to be coming from? Michael, will you be on the hotline to Keir Starmer? Via Kim McGuinness, of course. Or what do you know that we don't? Do you know something that we don't? Have you got the hotline? Oh, there we are. He's got the hotline straight into Labour HQ there. To be fair, he's been in touch with them a lot recently. Even Angela Rayner, who I must say is probably on the left of your party, I think we'd all agree, because Keir Starmer doesn't want her there, but has said this month that more oversight to council spending from central government is needed. That's what she has said. Clearly, she knows that money is wasted and we aren't getting value for money from local councils. Will this mean that we'll see more people from Labour central office poking their nose into Sunderland matters? Is that what's going to happen, everyone? Are we going to see more of the bigwigs from London? That's not what we want to see. I was in Birmingham last week, and it's a fantastic example of how a Labour council has mismanaged a budget. The residents are the biggest losers, and they're seeing things like libraries and swimming pools and facilities and community centres all closed, and a nice 21% tax increase brought in because of terrible financial management at a local level. Terrible financial management, absolutely horrendous. For years, the Labour group have simply blamed the government. Like Woody out of Toy Story, you've pulled your strings and the same phrases have came out. Evil Tories, usually a little mention of Mrs Thatcher here and there. We always play bingo over here and it's always ticked off. And even a Lib Dem thrown in here and there from the coalition days. Well, I'm afraid to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that the times are changing. And that if the polls... And that if the polls are right, then a new dawn has broken, has it not? But a new dawn for you on that side of the chamber, because you will be accountable. And they will be looking at every single little bit of detail, every bit of spending, and you will have to account for all of your mistakes and what you may be not doing very well. The excuses that you've been given over the last few years are going to be wearing a little thin with residents, and we're all going to be keeping a very close eye on you. Good luck.
Councillor Ems.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Let's not mince our words. Sunderland Council has been stripped of approximately £395 million since 2010. That's £395 million that we could have spent using to improve our schools, repair our roads, or even care for the most vulnerable people instead. But instead, we've seen years of austerity imposed by 14 long years of consecutive Conservative governments. But we can't just blame the Conservatives, because we were gifted with the coalition government. During Clegg's time as Deputy Prime Minister from 2010 to 2015, Sunderland's budget was slashed by an astonishing £250 million. Then, the David Cameron era, Cameron was the man who brought us the Brexit referendum, and then when the results came in, scarpered quicker than Rishi Sunak from a D-Day celebration. Under Cameron's watch, from 2010 to 2016, Sunderland's budget was further decimated, bringing the total cuts to £290 million by the time that he left office. Then came... Possibly, we'll see. Then... Then came Theresa May, who danced into Downing Street and promptly waltzed us into further chaos. During her tenure, From 2016 to 2019, Sunderland faced a further £65 million in cuts. She was followed by Boris Johnson, the man with more distractions than a toddler in a toy shop. His oven-ready Brexit deal turned out to be a bit half-baked, and his tenure felt like watching a chaotic TV reality show. Under his leadership from 2019 to 2022, Sunderland endured another £40 million in budget reductions. Now, let's not forget Liz Truss, who lost to a lettuce. Yes, a literal lettuce. Her tenure was shorter than a TikTok video and will go down in history as the ultimate political farce and will be the punchline of political jokes for generations. And now we have Rishi Sunak, who's running the country like an episode of The Apprentice, except on July the 4th, when that arrives, he'll be the one getting fired. Despite this parade of prime ministers, our council has remained steadfast, committed to serving our community with ever-dwindling resources. This motion calls upon His Majesty's next government to bring forth meaningful reform to how local government is resourced. We do need change, and we do need it now. Now, this council's resolve is unshakable. We will continue to campaign for fairer funding, leveraging every avenue from the North East Mayoral Combined Authority to the Local Government Association. We will not be silent, and we will not be ignored. Hendon deserves better, our communities deserve better, and Sunderland deserves better. Now, quickly, let's just talk about the future. The general election is on the horizon, and I am confident that Labour will secure a landslide victory. We will continue to work to restore the funding that has been so unjustly taken from us. We will rebuild our public services, and we will ensure a brighter, fairer future for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council. I'm just conscious of time and we still have 3 speakers. Unless there's anything different or anything further that you would like to add, can we take the... Do you want to stop, Councillor Curtis? You want to stop? Yeah. Right. I think what we'll do then, we'll move straight into the vote. Yeah. Before we move to the vote, sorry, Leader, would you like your right of reply?
Madam Mayor, just to, first of all, congratulate my ward colleague, Councillor Elms, on that fantastic speech that clearly set out the impact that we've had as a council to face under consecutive Tory Prime Ministers with the coalition of chaos under the Liberal Democrats that they always conveniently forget. Because Stephen O'Brien said he agrees with us that government have significantly reduced funding. He was part of that for 5 years. And this process we're in, that Councillor Kelly Checker spoke around, how adult social care, that started under the Liberal Democrats. They are as equally to blame for the situation we find ourselves in today than the Conservative Party. And moving forward, I absolutely have no qualms of standing up against the future Labour government on behalf of the city. I'm here to represent, first of all, the people of Hendon, and second of all, the City Council. I have no qualms of getting up and criticising the Labour government that's going to be elected when it's caused for. You can sit and shake your head, Councillor O'Brien. Madam Mayor, I've just been accused of being called a liar. I think that's a bit inappropriate. The issue is that we, as a city, as a council, have had significant funding pressures, and this election on July the 4th is our opportunity to vote for change. It's an opportunity to vote for an optimistic future for the city. It's our opportunity to vote for an optimistic future for the region with new governance arrangements. If anyone's observing the election, you'll see a leader of the Labour Party who's out fighting for every vote, a leader of the Tory Party who's trying to shore up his vote, and the leader of a Liberal Democrat who's more interested in playing opportunity knocks and jumping around on stupid toys. That's the contribution that the Liberal Democrats have made to the debate, the general election. They're making no contribution because everyone knows the Liberal Democrats are a complete and utter waste of time and have ducked every decision, that hard decision that's ever come before them. So literally, Madam Mayor, I thank everyone for the contributions. Move the vote because On July the 4th, we have an opportunity to really drive home change that this country, this city, this region desperately needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we do move to the vote, Councillor O'Brien, I believe there was a comment made where you called Councillor Modi a liar. I'm giving you the opportunity to withdraw that comment.
Sorry? He called me an idiot. So if you're going to hurl abuse, you're going to get abuse. So if he wants to withdraw the idiot comment, which I took on the chin, which is a political pantomime, I'll happily withdraw my comment. Michael, you going to withdraw your comment? No? There you go. I'm not withdrawing mine.
Noted.
That's only fair.
Madam Mayor, it's not a political pantomime. It's a council chamber. We're here to debate matters of the future of the city. And all I would say, if the shoe fits, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
I beg your pardon. If you're going to pull me up on abuse, pull him up on abuse.
It's documented.
Oh.
Documented. Okay, we will move to the vote. All those in favour, can I see a show of hands? All those against? Any abstentions?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A clear majority in favour of the motion, which is carried.
And that concludes the meeting. Thank you.